All right, so welcome back, everyone. I am north of the Yukskay River today in Pretoria, the capital. That's actually, I didn't do that on purpose, but I'm at Capital Prosthodontics.
You
right?
are.
My next guest is, I'll say it. You're going to disagree. I don't know if you will, but one of the big names in prosthodontics in South Africa, and maybe even globally, probably. I don't know too much about prosto. Dr. Avish Jay Jagathpal.
Yeah.
Is it, what is it, Avish or Avi or?
Avish.
Avish.
Yeah.
And Jagathpal, I said it right.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This practice, by the way, I'm just so tempted. It's a brand new practice. I'm so tempted to just take this camera around and shoot B-roll for like half an hour and show off the practice to you guys. I'm like so proud on your behalf. I don't know why, but it's a brand spanking new. You just moved here recently, eh?
Yeah, November.
And it's actually still in the process of being built up and things like that.
Yeah, I think just polishing touches, just making it prosthodontist worthy.
Yeah. It's beautiful. So if you're giving me permission afterwards, I like to just shoot some stuff.
Yeah,
and maybe put
love
some
that.
B-roll in the clip. And so if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just tune into the YouTube channel to see what it looks like, because it's really amazing. It's really cool. Avi, what does a prosthodontist actually do?
So I would assume most dentists who watch this would know, but we essentially are responsible for planning and execution of treatment plans in a way that would result in the hopefully long-term rehabilitation of a patient.
Okay.
And that's, it's a lot of, dental jargon strung together, but essentially, if you want to water it down, we treatment plan for long-term outcomes.
So you approach that question with the dental listener in mind, like a dentist listener in mind. I've got lawyers watching this show. Yeah. We've got students who don't know what they're deciding to do as a career watching. We've got old timers. So tell it to me like I'm five. And it's a good excuse for me, because as a dentist, I should probably know.
Yeah.
But I actually, like, what's the day in the life of a prosthodontist? Like, what do you do?
So, okay, to answer that question then, let's talk about the different specialties of dentistry. And
right.
I have so much of respect for every single one of them.
Okay.
But what I valued the most and why I chose this path is because a prosthodontist is the guy who puts the smile on your face at the end of it.
Okay.
We're the ones that put those teeth on. We have to figure out the ins and outs of how to put teeth in your mouth that look and function the way we want, and hopefully with a long-term success on that.
So it's a specialist dentist, right?
Yes, specialist.
So you got to become a dentist first, and then go through 4 or 5 years of specializing.
Yes.
Get into it, and then do 4 or 5 years, and
yeah. Well, ideally, if you're going to get into the post at this point, you're going to have to do some form of intermediate studies as well. So it's not just dentistry and then prosto.
Okay.
So you'd have to do some form of MSc or primaries or research or something to augment that, because it's becoming a very competitive environment now to specialize. So you can't just get in with dentistry, or it's very unlikely to get in with just dentistry.
So when you were this, let's say the 5-year-old Avi growing up, would you ever have seen yourself doing this, or?
I asked my mom that.
Yeah.
What did I ever want to be when I was growing up?
Yeah.
And she said I wanted to be a policeman.
Okay.
But no, I never saw this. But I told you the whole how I became a dentist.
We were chatting at a mutual friend's farewell.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it was a crowded environment. There were beers flying around. It was a farewell function, a lot of noise. It was also north of the Yukskay, which is out of my comfort zone, because I've been in Joburg for a few years.
Yeah.
I remember it being a really cool story.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to tell it here, but I don't want you to get there now.
Okay. So prior to that, I don't have much memories of growing up. I mean, we used to...
Where are you from?
KZN.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up in the North Coast.
Yeah. What's the town?
La Mercy.
La Mercy. Okay. That's near Tongaat. You'd call it Tongaat.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Tongaat, La Mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we grew up there in a small community, and I'm still close friends with so many of those people today.
Yeah. I'm also a Tongaat boy, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was born in Victoria Hospital, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. My dad is a well-known attorney in Tongaat. Like, I feel like everybody knows him. You can't he loves Tonga.
I wouldn't be surprised if our parents...
They probably know each other. Yeah. And like, I grew up there for a very short while, and then my parents moved, and then we went to Durban, and I was in high school. I mean, in primary school and high school in Durban. But I'm born and bred Tonga. I play cricket on the street. And, at the end of the day,
but that's how our youth was as well. It was so I'm one of 3 brothers.
Okay,
I'm the middle one. My elder brother is a doctor. My younger brother is an aeronautical engineer.
Okay,
he's the smart one.
Yes. Are you the black sheep then?
Yes. Yeah. So my youngest brother is actually he's
so you're the middle one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So my youngest brother's in the UK now.
Yeah. What does he do?
He's an aeronautical engineer. But now he works for British American Tobacco.
Okay. But do you actually know what he does? Because I feel like engineers, you never know. We don't know. Like, pick an easy career where, if doctor, dentist, we know what you do, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. He's like Chandler.
Okay. Yeah. Nobody knows what he does.
Yeah. He's like a transponder.
Okay, so that's the aeronautical engineer.
Yeah.
The younger one.
Yeah.
And the older one's a medical doctor.
Yeah. And so typical, childhood growing up, you play cricket on the streets.
Yeah.
Football.
Was cricket your thing, or?
We used to play almost every sport.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad were sporty with us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like a thing where we tried and did really well at everything that we tried.
What were the parents? Were they doctors and also?
My mom is a housewife.
Yeah.
My dad's a doctor.
Okay. The GP in La Mercy also? Or?
No, in Phoenix.
Okay. All right. So like a family doctor for years and years.
Yeah. I tried to digitize his books many years ago. It's impossible.
Okay.
He's
just
got
too much.
Millions of files. It's not possible.
Done. Yeah.
But yeah, he's like a resident name in the area, and people come from far and wide to see him.
Obviously, Dr. Jagathpal also, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And so we grew up skateboarding, roller skating, soccer, cricket, tennis, athletics.
Yeah.
So pretty much every sport we were offered at school, we would do.
You didn't want to be a doctor like the old man, or? No?
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Okay, yeah, go tell me.
So I think just the history of what followed in my childhood is what led to where I am today.
All right. Tell me about it.
So then we'd moved into now it's old, but back then it was our new house in La Mercy in around 1990, 1991, I forget.
Okay.
And I was going down so we've got this massive pool and this beautiful slide that my dad had installed. And it was Christmas Eve, and I'm going down the slide. And as I'm going down, I think I was going head first, but my younger brother jumps across and he hits the back of my head with his foot.
Yeah.
And then my face goes into the slide, and my 1-1 was avulsed, and my 2-1 was displaced.
Okay, that's like your upper central incisors for the non-dentists out there.
Yes,
Come on, I'll remember this.
Yes. This is
so your front top teeth.
Just as soon as they've been erupted.
Yeah. How old are you at this stage?
I think I was
probably like 6 or 7.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
They've just erupted. See, I know some dentists.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they were knocked out, and this was Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
So you're not going to find a dentist. So I remember getting out of the pool and just,
nothing there. You're feeling with your tongue and nothing is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the shock was, you don't feel the pain. It's more the what's happening right now.
I don't have teeth anymore.
Yeah. I just got used to having these here. And so, so my brothers dived into the pool. The one found my 1-1.
Yeah.
The other we found was displaced. I think it was palatally or something.
Okay.
And then my dad, because he was a medical doctor, he was friends with Chuni Ratan and Jay Patel.
Yes.
They used to refer together a lot. And so
I mean, for the people watching, just who are they?
So they are general dentists in KZN.
Okay.
They used to be our family dentists.
Right.
And they knew my dad pretty well. And every time I see them today, they always ask about my dad.
The one isn't Kabir Ratan's, is that, no, not related, eh?
Yeah, Kabir Ratan's dad.
Dad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then...
Shout out to Kabir, yeah.
And Dylan Patel is Jay Patel's son, so also dentist.
Okay, sure.
So my dad phones up Chuni Ratan and Jay Patel and is like, this is what happened. Can you guys help us out? And, to this day, these two men will walk on clouds for me.
Yeah.
They opened their practice at like 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve. They left their families behind. And they got me in the chair, tears streaming down my face. They start working. So they did the emergency endo. They splintered. They did whatever they need to, re-implanted. And then I woke up I was in the chair. I was awake. It was local. And then when I woke up from the chair, I had some teeth in my mouth and they patched me up. And I will forever hold these men in high regard because, I mean, they went over and beyond the call of duty.
Yeah, that's so cool, eh?
Yeah. And then, but eventually I lost the 1-1. I think it was about a year later that it was terminal and the 1-1 needed to be extracted. And then I went into ortho. I saw Siki Singh.
Right. That's for braces, right?
Yeah. So back then, implants weren't what they are today. You couldn't plan for it and insist.
But implants were a thing those days.
They were around, but not what they are now.
Okay.
They were very, very unreliable.
Right.
I mean, I just gave a lecture now where I spoke about some of the older implants, and back then osseointegration was the first questionable thing.
Okay.
So when you put an implant in, you figure out the prosthetics after the osseointegration takes place.
So that's after the implant integrates with the bone.
Yeah. So
I gotta dumb it down for the lawyers watching. Come on. I'm allowed to say that because I'm a lawyer.
Yeah. So back in those days, implants had been, for lack of a better word, invented. But they hadn't been to the level of predictability that there is today.
Okay.
Where in those days, they would find whatever bone there is, stick the implant in, and if the implant heals and takes, then they figure out how the tooth's going to look after that.
Okay. But would you consider an implant at that age anyway? Or
surprisingly enough, I actually have patients that we're treating right now who have had implants placed at 14 years old, at 13 years old. And there are complications, but they're manageable.
All right.
That being said, I wouldn't do it on a child at that age unless there's really, really special requirements.
Okay.
And there is a case or two that we're working up right now, but also special requirements.
All right.
But coming back to the story is...
Siki Singh, he's like a well-known name in orthodontics. Like, I think he's probably done braces for half of Durban.
Half of Durban, yeah. Maybe even more.
Yeah.
So, and also Dayal and Sundram, they were partners back then.
Singh and Sundram,
yeah. So, so then Jay Patel referred me off to Siki Singh, and he's like, okay, this 1-1's gone. We need you to close this gap.
Okay.
So that was probably the treatment, the best treatment at that time is we're not going to try to buy time. We're not going to hold the space for 9 years until an implant is possible. Because I don't even think it was part of common treatment planning then.
Okay.
I mean, we're going back like 30 years. There's no chance that was anywhere on the general dentist treatment plan cards.
Right.
So the best thing they could probably offer me at that time was, let's close the gap with some ortho, and then we can at least give him a normal childhood, which it was not.
Yeah. Why?
So here's me in the reaching my puberty years with braces and a missing central incisor.
In getting into high school?
Yeah, so this is a year after. So this is end of primary school going into high school.
Yeah.
So by high school, I think I had my ortho on for, I don't know, maybe Siki can confirm the records, but I would assume what felt like 5 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly.
So were you teased and all sorts of things?
I mean, remember, first there's a central incisor, so a whole width of about 8 mils that needs to be orthodontically closed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So they've got to gradually close that gap up. By the way, this is a story I haven't actually told many people. There's a very small community of people that know this.
Okay.
And I haven't really been comfortable telling this part of my life. It was only recently where, having a drink with a friend, and then I realized, and they asked me, do you have crowns on?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so there's a story behind it.
Okay.
And then I started unpackaging it, and I started to feel a bit emotional because it was the first time I was actually telling someone the whole story that I've tried to keep a secret for so long. So then my high school career, I still got braces. So going into the start of high school, I went into middle school. I went to Victoria.
Okay, Victoria Primary. Yeah.
I went into Victoria
My
Primary.
mom was a teacher at Mitchford. I don't know if you know Mitchford.
I knew a few people from Mitchford.
Yeah.
But yeah, so eventually.
But are the kids mean there and things like that? Huh?
At Victoria?
Yeah, or anyway.
Kids are mean. Kids are brutal, bro.
I guess all the time, huh?
Yeah, kids are cruel. It's horrible.
Did it like make you shy and reserved and all that sort of stuff?
So look, my mom always tried to counter that. Yeah. So, and it also feeds into who I am today, because when we were young, my mom didn't want us to be afraid of people. I mean, she didn't want us to be afraid of interactions.
Okay.
So she sent my younger brother and I to like drama classes.
That's great.
Yeah. So whenever we would go out for dinner or lunch or whatever, she'd always give us the money and she'd give us the bill and she'd say, go pay for this.
Okay.
Because she wanted us to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
That's so awesome.
And yeah, so she wanted us to be able to speak to strangers. But I don't think she could prepare us for that kind of bullying and that kind of, just emotional trauma. Yeah,
that's an unforeseen thing, like to lose a tooth and be walking around, different to all the other kids.
Yeah. So here's the first part of the end of primary school with no central incisor. And then going on to the start of middle school where this thing is still coming together. And then when you're in high school, when you're supposed to be meeting girls and dating and starting to get girlfriends and things, you would notice that my midline is slightly off.
Right.
So it's because they brought my 2-1 measly.
Okay.
So they crossed the midline of the 2-1 and they tried to close the gap with the lateral incisor from the 1-2. So they basically brought the two teeth on either side closer together and almost split the difference.
Yes.
But what happened is that it ended up tipping more than bodily movement.
Okay.
So then I ended up with my teeth sort of
in like a chevron sort of shape. Yeah.
Yes.
I have to describe it for listeners. Yeah.
So there's like a space shaped between.
Like a triangular space between your two middle upper teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kids at school weren't as bad.
Right.
The problem was the kids that were more friends back home.
Okay.
So like my brother's friends that we would play tennis with or play basketball with, they had a nickname for me. They used to call me Jim.
Yeah.
As in Jim Carrey.
Oh, okay.
So like Dumb and Dumber was big back then.
Yes.
So when Jim Carrey had that chipped central incisor. So
kids will find the worst stuff.
Kids are rough, eh?
And it'll be funny for them, but it'll be hurting you deep down. Yeah.
Yeah, and man, it killed me.
Yeah.
And the nickname stuck. They called me that for years. They called me Jim.
Right.
Based on that. And that childhood trauma was so deeply ingrained. And then when it came time to so I sort of achieved scholastically, and that's what one does is when you shy away from those kind of things, you bury yourself in sport or your books. Which is a good thing because, as you know, so I went to public school.
Right.
But as you know, going to public school, especially in an area where people are trying to be in like gangs, and for you to stay on the straight and narrow is a very tricky thing.
It requires dedication yourself and also parental input and guidance and
so then,
although it's probably not just the teeth that causes it. I think you probably had a natural inclination to be good at school anyway, just based on what your brothers are and
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But it played a big role.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So doing well in school, getting all A's and stuff.
Yeah. I was good, but I was naughty.
Okay.
So I had the guy who was my closest friend who sat next to me throughout high school was my cousin.
Right.
My first cousin.
Yeah, that's lovely. I would love that.
Yeah. And we were naughty together. We were, and it was nice because he never mocked me. He never brought that sort of inferiority complex out in me.
Okay.
And I think I remember one really funny story where we would sit together in English class and right across the aisle from us was another guy, and he would always fall asleep in class.
Okay.
And then it was towards the end of class that he fell asleep, and just before he did, he told my cousin and I to wake him up before we had to leave.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
Right.
And we just walked, the whole class woke up and left. And
deliberately left.
Deliberately. And we left him asleep there after school. Yeah, so we could be mean too, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we did well at high school.
Yeah.
And then when it was time to apply for careers, there were two things that I was really good at.
Yeah.
One was art.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to draw a lot. I used to paint.
Yeah.
And the other was that I spent my entire childhood life in and out of dentist rooms.
Okay.
I was with Jay Patel. I was with Chuni Ratan. I was with Siki Singh. I was with Harold Levenstein for a long time.
Yeah. Who's that?
In those days, he used to be what even today you don't have the recognition, but he would be what we would know as an endodontist.
Oh, like a root canal specialist.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was still making sure that the 1-1 had vitality. And when we were doing the root canals with the 2-1 had vitality. And when we were trying to preserve the 1-1, he was doing all the root canal work. But I think he's long retired. I don't even know if he's still alive. He was old then.
Okay. Yeah.
So then my first choice on most of my university applications were dentistry.
Yeah.
And second was architect.
Because of the arts thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So what were your favorite subjects in school? Like art and drama?
No, biology, science, maths.
Okay. So you did S7 type of thing. Yeah.
Man, I sucked at accounting.
Yeah.
I was watching Gunter's interview. Yeah, no, he was good. I barely scraped by on accounting. Not barely scraped. I did well.
Yeah.
But I don't know
by your
how.
standards.
No, I don't know how I did well.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can, but I sort of swatted my way through accounting.
Yeah. No, accounting was a terrible thing because I always tell my dad, I can't get it. He said, just don't overthink it.
Yes.
Because if you overthink it, that's when you get...
Right.
Yeah.
And it just never made sense. But I was actually bullied by a teacher.
Okay.
So when I was in Victoria, there was a teacher who, because of my name, Avish, he would call me Fish.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So then I never enjoyed accounting because he was my first accounting teacher. And I would never pay attention in his class because he's teasing me. And so if there's any teachers watching, just be careful.
Yeah, you can small things like that can have such a huge influence. People don't realize.
And then eventually I decided I'm just going to stop paying attention and I'm not going to listen to him until he addresses me by my real name.
Okay.
And eventually he did, but by then the ship had sailed.
Yeah.
The horses had already bolted and I lost my way through accounting already.
Okay. But you still got an A in matric, I'm guessing.
No, I got a B.
Okay.
I got a B.
Shame on you.
Yeah. No, right.
Yeah. And then, so dentistry was first choice.
First choice.
That's interesting, eh?
It was this. It was, and when I tell people this now, and it still gives me goosebumps when I do say it. It's that I wanted to be the hero in someone else's story.
Yeah.
I wanted to be that person that changes someone else's lives. The way that Dylan Syndrome, Siki Singh, Chuni Ratan, and Jay Patel, the way they changed my life.
Yeah.
And I felt that, my dad was a doctor. He treated us for everything that we needed. But I think the thing that I was most affected with was not something that could be fixed through medicine. It was something that it needed emotional repair.
Right.
And I felt that my dentists sort of did that for me. They were my heroes in my life at that point. So it felt only natural that that's what I wanted to do because I wanted to do that for someone else.
Okay.
So that's why I applied for dentistry.
So I think you're one of the few that got in because you really wanted. You did it because you really wanted to do it.
Yeah. So
it looks like there's a caveat to that or a but.
No, it's going forward. I remember someone asked me, why did you want to do prosto? It was one of the students at I think it was at Tikkies because they don't really enjoy prosto at Tikkies the way I enjoy prosto.
Okay.
Or the way I used to enjoy it at Wits. So they asked me, why do you want to do prosto? And I remember thinking back along this whole story of how I got here. And I felt that everything in my life has brought me to this, is that I was born to do this.
Okay.
Because it's so much ingrained in who I am.
Yeah.
And, I was telling my wife last night, dentistry became so much a part of my life that my life is now dentistry.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. So so you apply everywhere for dentistry and architecture,
except KZN because there wasn't dentistry. So that's the only place I applied for medicine. Because to a large degree, didn't want to leave home. I wanted to stay at home with my folks.
Okay.
So medicine would have been ideal. But dentistry came through at Wits. And at that time, that was the place to be. So I took it and I went to Wits.
Okay. You didn't like Western Cape and stuff didn't come back to you and things like that?
I don't even remember.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Yeah, Wits was the place where everybody wanted to go, right?
Yeah. I remember that I got a bursary for architecture.
Yeah.
But no, man, it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I think my first choice was dentistry, and I got it, and I was ready to go.
And you're still using art to this day. But anyway,
we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get there. Right? So how's Wits? Is it the first time obviously it's the first time you're leaving home?
Yeah. So I was the first person in my family, then my immediate family and my friends from school to leave home. And
the big brother did it in KZN?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he did medicine in KZN. And then it was traumatic as well, but purely because I was in res.
Yeah.
I was in res. It was a culture shock. I mean,
would the parents take you to Joburg? They drop you off, your family there, presumably?
No family.
So it's just like
cheers, sayonara.
N3, 6 hours drive.
Drop you off.
You fly, drive there, drop everything off.
Yeah. And
any tears from either side?
Yeah.
Mom.
No, this guy.
Oh, were you?
Bro, this guy. Oh man, I was.
It. Yeah.
This was so I grew up in a relatively sheltered household.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah. So we didn't. I've never owned a screwdriver. I never knew how to.
Yeah.
Now I've got a whole range of drivers.
Right.
Especially for implants.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in a sheltered household where I'd never had to survive on my own.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I'm thrown into res, where it's a whole lot of people that I don't know. I have to make a whole lot of friends. And it was different.
Do you own washing and everything like that? Or
Right. I've never even had to wash anything.
Yeah.
And now I've got to do laundry. I can
so relate. Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to do laundry. You've got to be responsible for your own food.
My roommate complained to my mom after like the first. Daniel Pillay, if you're watching, he's a doctor in Canada.
Yeah.
Because I had a roommate in first year.
Yeah.
And I used to just take my clothes off, just throw them on the floor. That's how bad I was.
Yeah.
And then he had a word with my folks, and then they were like, okay, you need to sort this stuff out.
Right.
But yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from to where you're going. So Wits, your parents drop you off, you in tears, she's in tears. I'll never forget, my mom was crying. I was like, I can't wait for freedom.
Yeah.
In my mind, yeah.
Yeah, no, and then I think that first week.
Yeah. Wits week
rough.
Is notorious for being a cool week, yeah.
No, man, it was rough.
Yeah.
Because it was, so here's someone that I've barely been to. So I went to house parties at school.
Yeah.
But this was on another level. I mean, it was, there was more alcohol than I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
And I was so on the back foot. Because remember, I was also quite reserved in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't do the stuff that everyone else was doing.
Yeah.
Maybe it was my own fault because I was trying to just shy away from these things. I didn't know. I wasn't popular with girls.
Right.
I wasn't even popular with guy friends.
Okay.
You know, I just had my cousin and we did our thing.
Yes.
And
buried head in books, academia, sport.
Yeah.
Also, you're coming from a small town to big city, Joburg, Wits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So how was O week? Like, survived?
Man, I think I was saved by the fact that they put our first aid course in O week.
Okay.
So I immediately got into the books, got into first aid.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
And then, so I started with that.
Yeah.
And at the end of first aid, I booked a bus ticket.
Yeah.
And I shot on back home.
Okay.
I was like, I can't do this.
Really?
Yeah. I left my luggage.
Yeah.
I just I got a bus ticket. I went back home and I told my folks, no, I can't do this. I can't. It's too much to take in.
Right.
It was just overwhelming. And so I spent the weekend at home. So I missed the last bit of a week. And then they put me on another bus. And they said, no, you you're going.
Okay, so no pep talk. It's like you're going.
I think there was.
Yeah.
I think in all this time I've maybe romanticized it a bit. But I eventually got on a bus and came back to Wits. And then we had our first meeting at Apollonia Dental Theatre at the old dental school at Wits. And that is where I met some of the closest friends in my life to this day.
Right.
My best mates. Shaylin Dulab, who's a Max Fac in the West Rand, and Kulpesh Lala, who's a dentist in in the south of Joburg in Main.
Are they also? Are they Durbanites or are they from Joburg? Yeah.
One is from Lens, one is from Lens South.
Okay, so both Gautengers.
Yeah.
So they took the Tonga boy under their wing, or how did it
Not
work?
immediately.
Yeah.
But so the person that I clicked with first was Dylan Patel, Jay Patel's son.
Okay.
Because I think his dad knew that I was going to be there, and my dad knew that that he was going to be there. So I clicked with Dylan immediately, and then he introduced me to his friends because a lot of them from the same area. Or the same school were in the same class. Sankeshan Padiachi.
Okay, yeah.
So his dad.
Imperial now, right?
Yeah. So his dad is also a dentist from Durban. So Dylan and Sankeshan were friends, and then there was Sheetal Premraj from our class, and a few other people that grew up in that circle in Durban ended up in our class.
Yeah.
So I just sort of tried to get in with them. First year I did really well.
Oh,
really well.
That's unique because usually first year is the thing that separates the.
But the thing is that I carried through that same academic sort of mantra with me, is that I want to excel.
Okay, yeah.
So
that work ethic is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't go out partying with everyone. And, when we qualified and they showed like photos in our dental magazine of all of us through the years, I'm like, where was I when all of this was happening?
Yeah.
And then it reminded me, oh no, I know where I was. I was in my room.
So if you and I were in the same class, you probably never see me. And I think you'd probably be annoyed. I was like the opposite. It sounds like you and I are opposites.
Yeah.
Because first year gave me flames. Like
Yeah. So I knew many people like that. My friend Lala, Kalpesh Lala.
Yeah.
So I would see him on my way back to Res.
Right.
So I used to live on main campus.
Yeah.
And men's Res.
Yeah.
And I'm walking to my Res and I'd pass this guy from whatever lectures we had.
Right.
So if we have a break, like a 1 hour break or a lunch break or something, I would go back to my room and I'd either nap or study. I'd pass Kalpesh on the way and he'd be drunk out of his mind. And like, oh, Mr. Avi, come and have a
drink. I hope
drink.
He doesn't mind I say that.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Okay. Yeah.
He doesn't. He's one of my closest.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's fine. He'll sue you, not me.
Yeah,
it's okay.
no, he's one of my closest mates.
Lovely, yeah.
Yeah, no, our families are so tight.
So I would have been Kalpesh if we were together. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, affectionately we know him as Lals.
Okay.
So like I'd pass him on my way, and every Friday, without fail, this guy would be sitting there. They used to call it the Aquatics.
Right.
It was where the aquatic club was.
Yeah.
So I'd walk past, he'd be drunk.
Yeah.
I'd go to my room and I'd study on a Friday night.
Yeah. So instead of swimming like fish, they were drinking like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
At the aquatic center.
Yeah.
So you're the model student. You're quite, I'm guessing.
At this point.
First year. Right.
So second year, still rocking it. So I'm doing really well. And at this point, this is sort of where my career trajectory took a bit of a turn. So second year, you start at Wits, you start in the clinics.
Okay.
And
second year.
Yeah.
That's quick. Yeah.
And I can't remember if I think you start in the labs and then you observe in the clinics.
Okay.
And then at some point you start treating a patient at the end of second year or the beginning of third year.
But the point is you're seeing real life patients somehow.
We were the first year of the new curriculum, and we were seeing real life patients from first year.
Oh, wow.
So they would have us observe final year dentists doing extractions and all of that.
So it was like you're doing proper dentistry from first year.
Yeah, I think they got tired of people deciding at third year, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so we were part of the first 5-year curriculum. And And then in second year, we were in the Prosto lab, and Nikki Verres was there with us. Nikki Verres and the late Errol Levine.
Yeah, and explain that for the viewers and the context of these
Nikki
people. Verres is a prosthodontist. I don't know if she's still at Fitz. Last time I was there, which was a few years ago, she still was on a part-time basis. But Nikki Verres used to teach us in the laboratories how to set up teeth for making dentures. And so the lab side, the patients, the side that the patients don't see. So when you take your impression and it goes off to a laboratory, so those procedures that get done, we were taught how to do that as well. And at some point, Nikki Verres said one line, and I remember it. I can still close my eyes and see her saying it to me, where she said, "You know, you've got a real talent for this." And it stuck with me.
That's nice.
Yeah. And I think that looking back, it's these little gems, these little
moments.
That you just think back on, where it's just someone just nudging you in the right direction.
Right.
And it's the right person at the right time, just giving you that little push to say, just try a little harder, or you're in the right direction, keep going.
Yes.
And that was where it was with Nikki at that point. And she just, you got a little talent for this. And that was enough for me. And so
it planted a seed, like almost.
Yeah. And this was, now I'm sitting in the prosthetics lab and I'm doing this. I'm like, it looks pretty nice. Maybe I do have a talent for it.
Yeah.
Because then I started to apply my art.
Yes.
And that's what I love about dentistry, is that being able to take my hands and my fingers and mold and build and turn something from nothing is where it all came together for me.
Yeah. Because you can be super book smart and academically tops. When you start having to use your hands, that's when...
Yeah. And I knew a few of those guys.
Yeah.
One of them, so one of my closest friends from first year, her name was Latifa Gangat. I remember she was excellent. She used to study with me, and at the end of first year, she's like, I can't do dentistry. I have to do something else. And I think she went on to become a journalist.
Okay.
But yeah, so like you said, you can be brilliant at the books, but unless you have that dexterity in your fingers and having a want for it, dentistry is not for you.
So what was the turning point? So it plants a seed that tells you, I want to do prosto.
I just like doing this kind of manual stuff with my fingers.
Right.
And then we got into the clinics in third year. And third year was then very profound as well. So, by the way, I set myself alight in third year.
Like on fire?
On fire, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were in the clinics at third year.
Right.
And so I think when they started us treating patients, I was paired with my best friend at the time,
right.
Dylan Patel.
Yeah.
I'm sure he doesn't mind me.
Yeah.
And the thing about Dylan, everyone knew it. He always came late.
Okay.
Always came late.
Yeah.
He was, and he lived like the closest to everyone.
That's generally what happens.
Right?
Yeah.
But he was always late for session. And he eventually won an award in our class for like the guy who always came late to session. But so Dylan was my clinical partner. And so they paired you up to start seeing patients in pairs, which I still think to this day is a brilliant concept.
So good.
I don't think they do it anymore.
Oh, that's so good. I wish we had that.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you do a complete set of dentures, one could do the top, one could do the bottom, but you just spar off each other. So it was a brilliant thing at the time, and I really enjoyed it. But what ended up happening was we get to session, and I'm alone because Dylan's late.
Okay, yeah.
So I had to work a bit harder to catch up and all of that. And sometimes we didn't end up finishing in the session.
Right.
And at some point, Leanne Sykes was my supervisor. And, the same way that Nikki Verres gave me that little nudge in the right direction, she's like, so Leanne Sykes at this point tells me, you're really good at this. Because now I felt that I had to work a little harder just to cover up. So when Dylan's not there, I've got to do a bit more.
Yeah.
So she's like, you're really good at this, but your partner's slowing you down.
Yeah.
So it's like, Dylan. So So I was like, okay. And so then we parted ways because then you start seeing patients on your own.
Okay.
And then that was when I set myself on fire.
Yeah.
So those gas terminals at the chair side.
Yeah.
So I had mine on and I had my flame going. So I took my green stick, I warmed it up, which you shouldn't actually do. You should be putting it into a hand-hour bath for any dental students.
Right. Yeah.
But so I got my green stick on the flame and I'm applying it, and then I turn around and I'm applying it. And then my lab coat.
Oh my goodness.
My elbow is over the flame. And then the flames just start rising up and you don't even feel it.
Yeah.
And then, so I set myself alight, threw my lab coat on the floor. But,
sure.
No, it was just part of the...
Yeah. So the third year was lit.
Third year was lit.
Yeah. Okay. I was waiting for that the whole time. I couldn't wait.
The third year, I let the ball slip a bit.
How so? Why?
Yeah. So now I'm getting a bit cocky because now I'm thriving.
And people are recognizing that you're good also. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, by second year, I knew I want to do something like this. And by third year, it was almost becoming cemented that I want to do prosto. I want to be a prosthodontist. And then I'm seeing, I'm interacting with these people. I'm interacting with Leanne Sykes. I'm interacting with Hemant Dulab, Joseph Schmarman, Dale Howes, Peter Owen, the greats of today. And, at those points, you see the way these people change the lives of the patients. And don't get me wrong, I do not take anything away from any of the other specialties. I mean, MaxVac, the way these guys save lives is incredible. The way that periodontists, they measure in microns, their attention to detail is phenomenal. But what I noticed is that...
And the community dentist?
No comment.
I had to throw that. That's like a thing. Everybody has a dig at the community dentist for some reason. So I'm just throwing that in there.
Yeah. But, when the prosthodontist got involved, then you see the happiness in the patient's eyes.
Okay.
You see them light up when you took that. And maybe it was a bit biased because you're taking a set of dentures for a patient where they have no teeth and they're getting a whole set of teeth and like 4 or 5 appointments. But the way the patients lit up, you could see the enjoyment in their face, the satisfaction, that emotion coming back to them.
Yes.
And that resonated with me personally.
Yes.
Because there's something I could see in myself where I'm seeing people's lives being changed in a way that...
Yeah, and you remember deep down inside as that kid growing up, you didn't have that central incisor.
Yeah.
You knew what it felt like.
Yeah.
So you actually you're gaining something from giving.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and I still, when I do deliveries, to this day, I get emotional. Okay. I feel it. I get goosebumps when I do it.
That's so nice to hear, man.
Because it's every patient is different, but it's still the same. It ticks this little piece in my heart where it's like you're doing...
It's actually fulfilling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but also at the same time, in my third year, I finally decided I'm going to get these teeth sorted out.
Okay.
So I go back down to Jay Patel and I was like, let's put some crowns on these babies.
Right.
So it's like, okay, let's put some crowns on. So he put some, back in those days, you do porcelain jacket crowns.
Okay.
We don't do those anymore, but he did some porcelain jacket crowns now on my 2-1 and my 1-2 to make them look like central incisors.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they were divergent in the roots, he made them look like central incisors. And now I get cocky because now I get confident.
Oh, okay.
So now I've got teeth.
It's amazing what teeth can make such a difference to a person's life, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I've got teeth.
Yeah.
And I'm doing well.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, let's see now.
Right.
Okay, now let's look for some girls. Let's
start potting. It was going this way, yeah.
So let's start potting. Let's start.
And you were a late bloomer. You should have gotten all of this out in first year.
Man, by the time I was done with university, my liver was still fresh. So I went nuts after university.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, yeah.
So in third year, I got some crowns done. And I remember I went to Lushen Naidu was a registrar back then. I think he's in Canada or the States now. I don't know exactly. But so No, it wasn't Lushen. It was Martin Oswald.
Okay.
He was a reg then, and he's in Canada. And I went and I showed him, check out my new crowns. I was like, oh, they're really good. Like, yeah, okay. So let's go out. And I got the stamp of approval from like one of the greatest registrars that I knew at the time.
Yeah.
So, so now I'm going out, trying to pick up girls, trying to meet people. And I remember it was GenPath.
Okay.
Coming up to GenPath. GenPath was a half course in Wits.
Okay.
And there were 2 exams. The first was a mock exam, which was not compulsory. It was just a trial of what the final exam is going to be.
Okay.
So it's to get you accustomed to how that exam is going to go, how the marking is, how the questions will be set, etc. So I was like, I don't need this, because it wasn't compulsory to attend. So a few friends and I, we decided, not these friends that I have now. So other friends, we decided, we're not going to attend this mock exam. We're going to do other things. We went out, played some pool and stuff. And then come the final exam. By the way, the night before the final exam, I was talking to this girl till like 4 a.m. All right. Now, I've been trying to get with this girl for the last maybe, I don't know, year and a bit.
Yeah.
It was just this girl. I was like this.
Smitten.
I was crazy about this girl, and I'm trying to get, and this is the one night she chooses, she's going to talk to me. So night before PATH exam, this girl is talking to me, and we're talking through the night up till 4 a.m. I was like, okay, now I got to go. And
over the phone, or is this like, cell phones were invented?
No, not cell phones.
What,
not
like
cell phones. It was, so you could phone like between reses.
Oh, okay. So like a landline.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, so until 4 a.m. this girl and I were talking, and I was like, you know what? I really, really, really need to go now. I need to sleep. So I rock up late for the PATH exam, and I'm looking at these questions. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And I fail.
Wish I went for that mock.
I wish I went. And so many questions were repeated from the mock.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Welcome to my world. That was just my normal world. Yeah.
So I failed PATH.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I failed anything in my life.
Yeah. In third year. Wow.
Yeah. So now I'm shaking because now I've got to write this SUP. And then fortunately, you don't carry that SUP. There's the June, July holidays. You come back and you write the SUP.
Okay.
So over that June and July holidays, I did not go home. I stayed at Res and I was going in daily, looking at slides, going to the textbook. I knew that textbook in and out.
Yeah.
And I nailed this SUP. And I remember a friend of mine, I don't know if I could say his name because he wrote this up with me, but anyway. But we nailed it together. We studied together the whole of June and July. We came through, we nailed it. So I was like, that's it. Last time I'm going to let this ball slip. I still pursued this girl for a long time, but it never transpired.
Okay.
She was the one that got away.
Failure wasn't even worth it.
No, it was not.
Yeah.
And that's also a lesson worth taking. So onto 4th year and 5th year, I started to develop a bit more into where I wanted to be in my life. I started spending time around. So I already knew I wanted to be a prosthodontist by this point.
Yeah.
And I started spending time around those prosthodontists that I could see myself being like. Joseph Schmaman, he's late, but he's touched so many lives. He's a god at in the Wits Hall.
Okay.
There are so many people who will show you photos of their time with Joseph Schmaman. It's like, it's people who will show photos of Nelson Mandela. Here's my photo with Nelson Mandela.
Yeah. Real role models.
He touched so many people in a way that, he was not, he didn't want fame. He didn't want wealth. He just wanted to help. And he was specifically dealing with maxillofacial prosthetics patients.
Okay.
So your oncology patients, your gunshot wounds, your congenital abnormalities.
Yeah.
And that's the life-giving part of prosthodontics. That's the part that really touches you, because you're taking a person who has nothing and you're giving them their world back.
Those are like some of the patients that have like half a face and don't have an eye, and you guys do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
The prosthesis is like an eye and a face, and I've seen that.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. We were actually recently, we were in the BBC. The BBC did a documentary with us for a patient that we treated with that.
Who's us?
Myself, Jamil Desai, I forget, there's Dr. Ridwan, plastic surgeon. So it was quite a few of us that were on that team.
Yeah.
But there was a child that had some trauma done to him, and then we were roped in to rehabilitate the child. But yeah, so that's part of our portfolio.
Okay. So fourth and fifth year, you're surrounding yourself with people that are role models in the industry. I need to rub shoulders and absorb.
It's not even that. It's where I would normally use my free time to study or hang out with my friends now. Now I'm going and doing elective time with these prosthodontists.
Okay.
So I would go out of I think it was after hours, I'd go to Dale Howe's practice.
Sure.
And I'd watch him and
so you're a unique student. I mean, like, students don't do this.
In retrospect, I don't know if I got it right.
What do you mean?
No, I think I wouldn't look back and regret who I am and where it's put me today.
Yeah.
But I think it's not what student life is about.
Okay.
And maybe I discourage other people from taking the same path that I did.
Why?
Because student life is when you experience your life. You're supposed to go out and go crazy. You're supposed to fail exams chasing after girls. You're supposed to, come drunk and hungover to your exams. And I wasn't
set yourself alight. It seems like you got a small taste of it.
I got a taste of it.
You knew it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's not that it wasn't for me. It was just that I think that my trauma was too deep rooted in me.
Okay.
And prosthodontics was sort of feeding that emotion.
Okay. Like an escape almost.
Not an escape. It was more just telling me that this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be.
Okay.
And less than an escape, more of a calling.
Okay.
And I would go and spend time with Dale House at his practice. I would go and sit with Peter Owen in his office.
But what have you lost from not partying and not doing all this?
That's true.
You haven't lost anything, right?
No.
You can still even do that now.
I still do that.
Or you still do it?
I still do it now.
Yeah.
But so and maybe that was the best part about it, is that in my formative years, in the best time where I was absorbing the most information, I was spending it with the greats.
Yeah.
I mean, Prof. Dulab, I cannot even tell how many times that man he's such a role model. He's like a father figure to so many people.
Mm-hmm.
His grasp of the information, the way he nurtures you to look after the information that you're given.
So he was at the University of Pretoria.
But he was first
at Wits.
Yeah, he was first at Wits.
Yeah.
And
I'm just checking, like, when the same Prof. Dulab we're talking about. Yeah.
So I mean, it was big names back then. Yeah, him and Dulab. It was Prof. Dulab. It was Pasetsa Moepolai. It was Dale House. It was Miriteng Tsakwane. She was a reg back then. It was Joseph Schmaman, Peter Owen.
So in fourth and fifth year, you going and doing all these things?
Yeah, I'm spending time with the prosthodontists, just trying to learn more. I would spend my free time with Martin Oswald as well. I would just sit in their postgrad rooms with them, watching them treat their patients. Joseph Schmaman, he would teach me how to paint the iris of the eyes back then.
Okay.
And that was the beauty of it. And funny thing, he was colorblind, but he could still get those colors beautifully. But that was the thing. I mean,
this is very important to hear about, because, like, it's useful to know what shapes the person that is sitting here on the couch next to me now.
Yeah.
Nobody knows about all these things happening.
No.
They'll probably see you on social media or presenting somewhere overseas.
Yeah.
But nobody knows all the backstory, all the years of work and the sacrifices, all that stuff that goes into it.
Yeah.
All of this plays into it.
Yeah.
I'm not blowing smoke up here, but
yeah. No. Yeah, I did. I did have a fair amount of fun, but I think it's with these two guys that have now become, I mean, they've cemented in their position in my life. I mean, one of them is, I do everything, almost every weekend. I'm with Shailen Dulab. He is the Max Fac in West Rand. He is probably the most giving person. Actually, both of them. They are the most giving people I've ever met in my
their
life.
Time and resources. And
not just that. Yeah. It's they look after my family. I look after theirs. We are family.
Okay.
It's not friends anymore.
Yeah.
They are those kind of people that I always used to refer to them as, if I ever woke up naked in the streets of Hillbrow with no memory of how I got there, these are the two guys I'm phoning.
Yeah.
And I know both their cell numbers off by heart.
Okay.
Because if I'm ever in trouble, these are the guys you call.
All right.
I don't know. Is Hillbrow still dangerous?
I think it's more dangerous than it was when you were.
Oh,
yeah, that's for sure. Definitely. Wits pub crawl. I went there once, and somebody actually saved me from that. I wasn't naked, but I was in a situation. Jim Merson governed. I'll get him on the show one day.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So I'm guessing then immediately after you finish uni, obviously you do ComServe.
Well,
yeah.
No. So uni, it became a bit more. I must, if any of my old classmates are watching, I must apologize because I was.
They will be watching.
Can I say the word douche?
Yeah. Yeah, you can use the word douche.
Yeah, I was a major douche.
Right.
Because
when?
In fourth and final year.
Okay, unpack.
So it came to a point where I felt I didn't even need to study for exams.
Right.
So I'd write an exam just from what I now knew.
Yeah. Although you were probably studying, but not in the traditional sense of sitting down. You were immersing yourself in the work.
Right.
Yeah.
But remember, there's many other subjects.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's just
we forget about that. Yeah.
But
so what you were this cocky, arrogant, like I'm too sharp type of guy.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And I remember I'm not gonna say names at this point.
Yeah.
But at some point, there were some dishonest people in our class.
Okay.
And they used to cheat a bit during the tests.
Right.
As always. And I know it still goes on.
Yeah. Because you lecture and things, right?
Yeah.
So you deal with students. So
yeah. So fortunately I don't have to invigilate tests and all that anymore. But so there was some dishonest students in our class and they used to cheat. And at one point I remember. So we were I don't know if it's still called it used to be called the DGA, the Dental General Auditorium. I don't know what it is now. But it's the sort of raked auditorium.
Okay.
At Wits. And then I was sitting right at the back writing this test. And just the foreshadowing of this is that a week before this, we do a mock test.
Yeah.
And in this mock test, we are shown several slides, some of which may or may not come out in the week later's test, which is going to be the official test. But we're not allowed to write anything. We're just supposed to sit there, go through all these slides, maybe have a discussion with the lecturer and all of that. And then we do the actual exam later, a week later. So we are in this actual exam now, and I'm at the back row. And I'm writing this exam, and a few rows down, someone is sitting there with his textbook on his lap. So he's got his book on his lap.
And it's not an open book test.
It's not an open book test, but in my mind, I'm thinking, we literally saw all of these slides a week ago.
Yeah.
How can you not know what's coming out? How could you not study for this?
You see, you can't relate to that guy.
I cannot relate because he was probably out chasing girls the week before.
Yeah.
So he's got a textbook on his lap.
Yeah.
Oh, no. He was copying from the guy, but they used to do that too. So they had textbooks on their lap, but he was copying from the guy next door. So the guy next door would like hold up his paper like this, and this guy would sit like this.
Yeah.
And he'd like read the next guy.
You see, you knew your work so well. You had so much time to check all this other stuff happening that you probably finished with your paper.
It's hard to miss because there's this lecturer who's not even paying attention. He's just sitting and reading his book.
Yeah.
But there's all this stuff happening around him.
Yeah.
So like I'm getting peeved off now because I'm thinking everyone else spends like hours studying and prepping for this. So in the middle of this exam, man, I stand up. And I call out the student's name. I'm like, hey, you.
Yeah. This must have made you really popular.
Oh, man. I got death threats.
Yeah.
So like, hey, you,
Yeah.
this guy.
Yeah.
Can't you do your own work? Stop copying the guy next door. And the lecturer just looks up in horror. And my two mates, Shaylin and Lala, they're sitting in front of these guys.
Yeah.
So like after that, I just glance at them and I can see the shock and horror on their faces
it's like
too.
watching a train smash in slow motion.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do?
Okay, so you had immediate regret after that?
Yes, because like I could feel my blood pressure going up where I'm feeling like everyone studies for these tests and you're cheating.
Yeah.
So like I couldn't, it like was just an explosion.
Yeah.
So I stood up and I was like, stop copying.
Yeah.
And so the lecturer just says, okay, everybody pens down, stop writing. And he takes these two guys' exam papers and he's like, okay, we're going to investigate this.
Right.
So it didn't end off bad for anyone.
Okay. All right.
They did threaten me.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. But they asked me if I still have a problem with them rewriting the test and all that. I was like, no, I don't have a problem with them rewriting the test. They rewrote the test. Everything was fine.
Okay.
But yes, I got very cocky towards the end.
Okay.
And regrettably so.
Right.
I think that when I look back, that was not the proudest moment in my life because, I mean, to each his own. And I think I've come to a point where I realize that everyone's going through their own struggles and everyone's got their own battles to fight. And
I think it's really great that you're saying this, in hindsight, because it's nice.
Yeah.
I think it's on reflection.
Yes.
You don't know what those guys are going through.
Yeah, you don't know.
And eventually, if they're on the wrong path, they'll expose themselves somewhere along the line. Probably.
Yeah, sometimes.
Know.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was dentistry. And then when I finished...
Okay, so apart from invigilating exams in 4th and 5th year, you get through it fine.
I got through fine. And I took all of the Prosthodontics awards. There was also a Fred Hossack Prize for the best clinical case. I got that.
Right. I'm not surprised about all of this. So you were top.
Yeah, I took all the restorative awards as well. Yeah. So Prosthodontics was already in my blood at that point.
Yeah.
It was something that I knew I was going to do. And a few years later, when I look back at our magazine for where, like, they took photos of us and they asked us a few questions. Adverts. And then on my name, it's asked there, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, lecturing back at Wits and as a prosthodontist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
ComServe?
Ooh.
Where's that?
ComServe. ComServe was rough.
Yeah.
So ComServe, we were the first 5-year class.
Oh, okay.
So in our year, there was already a ComServe class that was allocated to all so the 5.5-year class already occupied all the ComServe posts.
Oh, okay.
So now we are finishing and they don't have enough posts for everybody. So they had to figure out where they're going to put all of us. So I got like third rounded before I knew where I was going.
Okay.
And I was allocated I think it was the Ilembe district in KZN.
Right.
Which includes Denga and everything up north that way. And I was allocated a hospital called Montebello Hospital, which is in Dalton.
Right.
And I was not happy because there was no dentistry, anything there.
Really?
So here's me coming from this glowing CV saying, I'm ready to do dentistry. And there has not been a dentist in that facility for over 50 years. There wasn't even a working chair.
Oh my goodness.
So one of the people who was allocated in the same district to Stanger Hospital didn't pass and she had to repeat another 6 months. So I tried to get creative, and probably the first and only time in my life I tried to bribe a government official.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So I'm like phoning around Department of Health and I was like, I need to get out of where I am and I need to go to a hospital where there are resources so I can still do dentistry.
Okay.
So I set up this meeting with this government official at, I wouldn't even say where.
Yeah.
And I go up there with 2 very expensive bottles of wine in a nice gift case made out of leather bound and everything. And I go there and I'm like, so this happened. This person didn't pass and that post is available. And could you help me get into this post? And in no uncertain terms, he says, absolutely not.
Okay. Good on him. Yeah.
So I walk out of there with my leather-bound bottle of wine as well.
Oh yeah, you just went to speak to a guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it didn't work, and I had to go to Montebello Hospital.
All right.
And the chair didn't work. The chair went up and down. It didn't even recline. There was no suction. We had to dab all the blood with gauze.
And just doing extractions.
Only extractions.
Yeah.
And I had this amazing assistant, Sister Anastasia. Fun fact though, the same post was occupied by Nayesh Naidu a year later.
Okay.
And that's also another fun fact, is that out of this one school that the 3 of us attended, Nayesh Naidu, myself, and Ashana Hariprasad, all 3 of us are prosthodontists.
Wow.
So,
okay, so something in the water there.
Something in the water.
Yeah.
Maybe my tea.
Yeah.
So in this.
But you must have been hating it, right? Like you,
Yeah.
specialists,
yes,
aspirations to.
So here's someone that's got this whole world of information that I'm ready to.
But you're making money, at least. First time in your life.
Yeah. And it was a lot of money because they used to pay me for subsistence and traveling as well, which was like an hour away from home. And they didn't have accommodation for me, so they couldn't put me up. So they would pay me for traveling first. They would pay me a deep rural allowance, and they would pay me.
So you're traveling from
KZN, from my parents' home.
Okay, nice.
So they were paying me quite well.
Yeah. So you had more money than you needed.
Yes.
For that year.
Yep. And that year, just everything I knew just started to disappear.
Mm.
And then I decided I'm gonna start studying again. So
when did this decision happen?
Like I think 6 months in, I decided I'm gonna register for an MSc.
6 months into ComServe, so while you still.
Yeah.
All right. So you couldn't wait.
No.
MSc is what? Master
of Science in Dentistry in Prosthodontics.
Where?
At Wits.
Okay.
So I linked up with Peter Owen again, and it's just through coursework and research, but that took me like 3 or 4 years, and then I eventually didn't even finish it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just couldn't give myself to it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but it kept me busy in those first in that part of my life. So I was studying anatomy, I was studying physiology, and I was doing the primaries.
Well, that's interesting. You don't seem like the type that doesn't finish what they start.
Well, it's because of what came next.
Tell me.
So then after ComServe, I wasn't really doing much, but then I wanted to get into private practice. I was tired of just doing extractions. By the way, I did assist in delivering many babies that year.
And in ComServe at Ilembe district.
So because there wasn't a dental facility there for 50 plus years, no one knew that there was a dentist. So nobody would come in for dentistry.
Yeah.
So I would work for like 2 or 3 hours, see maybe 5 or 6 patients sometimes. I think the most I ever saw in a day was 12.
Okay.
And then I'd go and just observe what the medical ComServe the medical ComServes were doing. So I just observe them and assist them.
So when you said extractions, you meant babies.
Extracting babies.
And not teeth.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I assisted a few C-sections, a few natural deliveries.
Well, don't tell the HPCSA. The scope problems there.
Yeah. Well, I was observing more than anything.
Yeah.
It was like a scrub nurse or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was eager to get into private practice and get back into doing dentistry. And then...
Oh, so it wasn't like I want to go and specialize now immediately.
No.
Yeah.
No, because I also knew that so Peter Owen was still...
That's Prof. Owen, right?
Yeah.
But,
yeah. So he's as great a man today as he was then. He's a mentor to anyone that needs it.
Yeah. And everybody talks about that guy from Wits.
Yeah. He's a walking legend. I mean, I told him I want to be a prosthodontist. And then, so his whole thing is, this is how you do it. And he told me, you need this many years of clinical experience before they'll take you seriously. So I knew I had to get into private practice and I had to start doing the stuff.
So it's not like you just gave up on the dream or, ComServe killed the dream. You knew what you needed to do.
Yes, there's a time frame.
Right.
And he told me to be considered seriously, you would need to do at least 3 to 4 years of clinical practice because they have to know that you can do this kind of problem solving by yourself. So, and I still believe that that's the case.
Yeah.
It's ideal.
And also it makes sense because it would be strange to be a specialist in dentistry when you haven't even done the dentistry.
Yeah.
But,
There's so many lessons you learn just from being in private practice, and people don't get it. They want to leave dentistry and go straight into specializing. There's a huge void that you miss when you skip that part because you get to deepen your understanding of the different facets of dentistry because university just provides you with the foundation knowledge. What you gain after that is up to you, and how you apply that is up to you.
I mean, I was speaking to one of my senior colleagues, Raj Ratan from Dental Protection.
Yeah.
And I think if I remember correctly, he said in the UK at one stage, they would not allow you into a specialist post unless you had done 10 years or something of general work.
Yeah.
I don't think it applies now, but there was something like a long period of time before you were even taken in as a requirement.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Yeah, so I wanted to get into private practice. So I sent my details around to a few people.
Where, in which area?
In KZN.
Okay.
And then one person in particular gave me a job.
Okay.
And it was a medical aid practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked there for about, I don't know, 6 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told the story many times. So it wasn't a very ethical practice.
Okay.
So the guy that I worked for, he's late now, but he was committing a lot of medical aid fraud.
Okay.
And I wasn't comfortable in that situation. So here's me coming in from, the guy who's invigilating exams in my final year. Yeah. So this sort of ethical and moral fiber that's always pointing true north. Yeah. And now I'm working in a practice that's committing medical aid fraud. And I was not comfortable in that space. And he also didn't treat his staff well.
Okay.
And that was really not nice for me. And some of the girls that worked there, they were lovely people. Not some, all of the girls that worked there were lovely people. One of the girls though, and I told this story when I opened up my practice at my old place, is one of the girls that worked there, she really disliked him. Okay. I'll say her first name. And her first name was Natasha. All right. And every morning, the dentist would come in and he'd be like, Natasha, coffee. Sure. And then he'd go and...
What was her role in the practice?
She was the assistant.
Okay.
So
like a dental assistant?
Yes, but she was straight out of high school.
Okay.
So you could just take anyone off the street in those days and just appoint them as an assistant. So he'd just walk in, Natasha, coffee. And then he'd go and do his thing. And then when patients come in, she must assist. And then this was a daily thing. But he never treated any of them well. And there was one time he was having the driveway redone and he had the girls go and move bricks around. Wow. It wasn't a nice thing. So, I mean, back then I used to wear a white coat. So I took off my white coat. I went out and I just started helping the girls just carry the bricks. And I felt bad for them. And so then as time went by, in those months that I was at that practice, I got to know the girls a bit better. And then she says, can I tell you a secret? I was like, okay, yeah, what's the secret? So she's like, every morning when he comes in and he says, Natasha, coffee, I go to the toilet and I fill it from the toilet to get the water.
Wow, gosh. Oh, goodness. That is,
That's why I always treat my staff well.
Oh, yeah, because you don't want toilet water. Okay, but whatever motivates you, that's good. Yeah,
whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so, but just looking back, it's like my staff are part of what keeps the practice afloat.
Yeah. And before I forget, because you said back then you used to wear a white coat. What do you wear now to work?
Scrubs.
Scrubs, okay. Yeah. That's the thing. Everybody's wearing scrubs.
Yeah.
But like these fancy looking one, not like baggy.
No, mine is...
Yours is probably like tailored and things. If I know you, come on, look at this place. It doesn't look like, it looks like you're going to be wearing... I believe if you told me you wore a suit and saw a patient.
I do sometimes.
Okay.
When I'm just doing consults.
Right. Okay.
But
let's not get ahead of ourselves. No, let's go back there. So there was 6 months, you left that practice, obviously.
There's actually a story as to why I wear suits.
Right.
When I'm...
Please, can we get to that? Oh, let's do it now. Let's do
it now.
Yeah.
So when I was in my final year, I was supposed to go on the Pillar Pepper train.
Yeah.
And the day before I went...
The Pillar Pepper train, for people who don't know, is like this train that goes all around the country, and dental students 4th or 5th year go in. It's like a community service type of train where you see people from the area. You're taking healthcare to the people as opposed to them coming to the healthcare.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So then I was supposed to go to the train on a Sunday. And then the Friday before I leave, the guys that were on the train, they get back.
Okay.
And then they send a message to us and they're like, it's really cold where you're going. So get a heater, pack some blankets, pack warm.
Where were you going? Can you remember the area?
I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was winter.
Yeah.
And so then the Saturday morning, I decided to go to the Zone and buy a heater.
Rosebank.
Yeah. On my way to the Zone, I had a car accident.
Okay.
So
You're driving.
I'm driving.
Yeah.
And I hit the owner of... There's a restaurant. It used to be Mike's Kitchen.
Okay.
At the corner of... So in Parktown, it used to be like
Oh yeah, this place where all the Wits students go. Not Wits students, but people from Joburg go. Yeah, have beers and
Yeah, so there was probably the last standing Mike's Kitchen in the country was probably there. So the owner of Mike's Kitchen, he was coming down Oxford and I was going the other way towards the zone, and a taxi was stopped in the middle of the road and I swerved to hit that car, but I ended up on oncoming traffic and I hit this BMW head on. I hit the steering wheel. I fractured my mandible.
Oh my goodness.
So I had a parasymphyseal fracture and a condylar fracture. And I ended up in Mill Park Hospital. And now I'm lying there in Mill Park Hospital, and then in walks this guy wearing this suit.
Yeah.
Right? Black suit, I remember. White shirt, black suit, Italian shoes.
Okay.
In walks Jeff Curry.
Okay.
And this guy makes a statement. He oozes this.
Tell us who he is.
Jeff Curry is a maxillofacial surgeon at Mill Park.
And this is how Avi decided he wants to be a maxillofacial surgeon.
And this is how I became a max vac.
Yeah, so he walks in.
So this guy walks in and you just look at him and he commands presence when he walked in.
Your fracture was reduced just on sight.
Just on sight. It's like, wow, this guy commands the space.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're here, you need help. And
these surgeons, I tell you.
Right?
Yeah.
And you just look at him and he's like, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, God walked in.
Yeah. So he patched me up. It was great. And that was sort of why I love suits. I love wearing suits because it's sort of it finishes the product.
Okay.
That if you know what it doesn't mean it by any means. And I don't mean that someone that's not wearing a suit.
No, of course. Yeah. But it's also, I told you, we were chatting on WhatsApp yesterday.
Yeah.
And we were talking about what to wear. And I said, this is what I wear. But I said, dude, please wear the suit because it's so on brand for you.
Yeah. But that's exactly the thing with the Nikki Veras and Leanne Sykes. It's the right people at the right time, just planting that seed where it's just something that you want to emulate to be more than what you are.
Yeah.
So that was when the suits came about.
Okay.
Where it just made me think, wow, when I get to that level, I'm going to be a suits guy.
Yeah.
And
makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's also so interesting to hear the story. You broke your jaw and that's what made you a suit guy.
Yeah.
In a car accident on the way to passing Mike's Kitchen or whatever.
And by the way, when I was out of uni for a while because I was bedridden. I didn't go to uni for about 6 weeks. Fortunately, part of it was over the holidays. But these guys, Shaylin and Lals, they picked up the slack for me. Any work that needed to be done, they'll either do it for me or they'll bring it to me. And
you had good people around you.
I had a great group of friends. So back to where were we?
We were at the fraudulent practice.
Right. Yeah. So I couldn't do that anymore. And I couldn't put my name onto files where I knew things were going bad.
Okay.
And I had to get out of it. And I realized the work I can do, the work I've been doing for years now, and I wanted to just do it. So I opened up my own practice.
Okay.
And this is one thing I don't recommend.
Right.
To young dentists today.
Okay.
Is I don't recommend opening your own practice 6 months, 1 year out of ComServe.
Why?
Because every young dentist needs good mentorship.
Okay.
They need to learn the ins and outs of dentistry, even if it's in a bad way, even if it's how a bad practice is run.
Mm-hmm.
The importance is you want to learn the things that dental school doesn't teach you.
Okay.
And I think that's why I'm such a poor businessman today.
Okay.
I like to think I'm a good clinician, but from a business point of view, from a money point of view, from definitely an accounting point of view, I suck.
Okay.
That's why I have people doing that.
Okay, good. Because I was about to say, it doesn't look like you're a bad business. Clearly business is working out.
But I have to outsource.
You delegate to people, the experts.
To the people who know what they're doing.
Okay.
But I suck at anything regarding finance, regarding the operations, the admin, that I have teams for now.
Okay.
But that's what I probably stood the best to learn.
Okay.
By staying in practice.
I get you.
So I should have gone from that bad mentorship to a practice with good mentorship. And I there was a time when I was offered a locum job with a good mentor. I think his name was Dr. Hassan or someone it was near the pavilion. I can't remember the practice. But it was a beautiful practice.
Okay.
And I should have taken up on it. I should have taken him up on it. It was just, I was already starting to plan my practice, and I'd already started buying equipment, and I just wanted some locums to buy the time. And he says, I can offer you a full-time post. And I think that's one of my big regrets in my career, is not taking on that full-time post to learn how he does it.
Yeah. Okay. Good advice.
Yeah. So,
but how did it go? How did private practice go when you opened up?
It was good.
Yeah.
I opened up. I was doing things I
Where
wanted
were you?
to do. In my dad's building in Phoenix.
Right.
So my dad has a medical center there.
Yeah.
And so I was just working there. And
so Phoenix joke, lots of gold slits and all that stuff. Not really.
Man, the amount of times I tried to report practitioners to the HPCSA.
Yeah.
I kid you not. So you can see this ethical thing. It doesn't leave me.
Yeah, no, of course. I think it's an ingrained thing. It won't leave you. Yeah. That's a good thing, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I like to think I get that from my dad, and I think there are maybe 4 people that have this that I know in my life. It's my dad. He has this ethical strand that cannot break. It's my wife. She is ethically unwavering, and her dad, and her brother too.
Okay.
They are people whose ethical and moral fibers are just unparalleled.
Yeah.
So,
but back to the joke, or the Phoenix joke.
Yeah.
The gold slit thing. People, not everybody knows Phoenix, right?
Oh,
and stuff like that.
It was hard to do good dentistry when everyone wants to come in for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
is that what people came in to you for? Like, they would ask you?
They ask for it.
So what do you say?
No.
Oh, okay.
You try to say no as much as you can. But, it's like you don't do it, and then they go to the guy down the road, and then they come back for the cleaning and polishing, and they've already got it in their mouth.
Yeah.
And there were dentists who I remember there was this one guy who he eventually got struck off the roll.
Okay.
I don't know why, because it wasn't one of the complaints I laid.
Yeah.
Because I laid many complaints against this guy.
Right.
But
it's not easy in South Africa to get struck off the roll.
Yeah, so you have to be really doing.
Yeah. And even then, like, it's usually a suspension. People get suspended for a few years and come back.
Which is why I'm not going to mention his name.
Yeah, don't. Yeah.
But there were flyers going around where he'd say, like, bring your family in for a cleaning and get a free gold tooth or something.
Things like that.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I couldn't live in that environment. I couldn't thrive in that environment. And, I knew I was destined for bigger things than that. And it's like I hit a ceiling in private practice.
Right. And what were you doing in private? Like, what kind of?
I was drilling, filling, crowns and bridges. I was a lot of dentures and a lot of extractions. And I loved surgery. I loved surgery. I was good at surgery.
And medical aid practice.
Yeah, it was a medical aid practice. And this we were talking about a bit earlier, is that I wasn't a medical aid practice, but I wanted to do good work. So I was buying like high-end materials.
Oh,
I was buying like...
Yeah, I remember this.
Yes. So I didn't want to buy the cheap stuff. I wanted to buy the stuff that you don't get comebacks from.
Yes.
I mean, at uni, we were using Z250. So that was what I was most familiar with. So that's what I went and started using. We were using rotary endo at Wits. So I was using ProTaper in private practice.
Okay, so this is the part that explains or confirms the thing you mentioned about the business side of things. So you are getting high-end materials, but not charging commensurately, and then screwing yourself.
Exactly. So I wasn't making a lot of money, because here I'm offering good service. I'm offering good quality dentistry, and I'm busy. I'm working till like 7 p.m. at night, but I'm not making a lot of money.
Okay.
And then at some point so my personal life at this point was also going in one direction. Private practice is going in one direction. And then the girl that I was dating at that point, we broke up.
Okay.
And so that changed in my life. And then at practice, I hit the ceiling.
Right.
I just reached the ceiling, and I couldn't grow anymore. I'm seeing the same patients day in, day out. I'm doing the same things. It's dentistry that I'm proud of, but I'm not proud of the global picture.
It doesn't sound like it's fulfilling you.
That's the word.
Yeah.
There was no fulfillment in it.
Yeah.
It was, I'm doing this now, but I don't see it growing beyond these four walls.
And there's no goosebump moments and stuff.
It actually, it didn't come until much later in my life that I get those now.
So what do you do?
Yeah, so then I've got a friend who's still a supervisor at Tikkies and at Bits. To this day, Fatima Ghani, I owe so much to this girl. She was in my class undergrad as well. And so she knew back from the Wits days that I wanted to do Prosto.
Right.
And so in 2009, she sends me a message and she's like, hey, dude, there's a Prosto post at Tikkies. Why don't you apply? And I did the math. I'm like, yeah, okay, I've got the right amount of clinical experience. I've got my primaries. Maybe it's time. So Prof. Dulab was head of department then. And I applied for the post and I get shortlisted.
Right.
And when it was time for my interview, I withdrew my application.
Okay.
So I withdrew my application. At that point, there was just too much of flux in my life.
Right.
I was dating a lot. I was traveling a lot.
Right.
I'd actually won a trip on the FTV yacht.
Okay. So you're making up for campus days that you didn't go to.
Right.
Okay. So you're jawling in one word.
In South African terms, I was jawling.
Yeah, party. Yeah. You're living a good life.
Yeah. So it was time. And at this time as well, practice is so busy and I'm doing more Crown and Bridge work. So I'm seeing more profit. So practice is doing well. It's supporting my lifestyle. I'm traveling more.
Yeah.
My brother and I are traveling. We're going out a lot. Right. I made some friends and I'm going out with my friends a lot more.
Interesting, hey?
So I withdrew my application.
Yeah, and if anybody was watching the first hour, they would be like, that this will never happen. So you withdraw.
I withdrew.
And then
I said,
Prof
is fuming.
Right.
So Prof. Dulab is like, if you do this, you're done.
Right.
He's like, forget about Prosto. This is it.
Yeah.
If you withdraw your application, don't bother trying.
Also, did you pitch it to him? I'm thinking of withdrawing.
No.
Yeah.
I told him, Prof, I can't do it. It scared me now.
Right.
So I'm living with my folks again. I've got an easy lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're living with your folks, you don't have to pay rent.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay a bond.
Yeah.
You just pay for your car and your drinks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So non-Indians watching this might feel like, what? This guy's living with his folks and he's like balling as a dent. But this is it's an Indian thing.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
Like we know lots of people that at that age are still living with their parents.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I want to just pause and mention that.
Yeah,
because there will be people with their eyebrows up now.
For anyone these days. I wouldn't recommend that as a positive.
But it's a good point you make. You're in your comfort zone. You in Durban there. You're reluctant to move to
Pretoria.
Yeah.
So, and this isn't even Wits or Joburg where I knew it.
Yeah.
This is now Pretoria.
North of the Yixkay.
Like as uncomfortable as you
different.
Feel. Yes, it's different.
Pretoria is different.
Yes. So now it's historically Pretoria was always an Afrikaans medium university, and I didn't know if it was still at that point.
It was the seat of apartheid, guys. Pretoria was hectic.
Yeah. But
our people didn't come here.
No, we stayed away.
We weren't allowed.
Yeah.
Not that we didn't choose to come.
Yeah.
But so I totally understand. And it also had this reputation of being like very stiff and military style and different.
And so I was afraid again.
Okay.
So I was afraid of change. I was afraid to leave my comfort zone and all these other things happening at the same time. So much of flux.
Yes. Lots of factors lead you to saying, I'm pulling out.
Yeah.
Despite being that fourth and fifth year student who's shadowing people in their practices and knowing it's for you.
On the cusp of my dreams.
Yes.
I'm
so glad that you're saying this.
Yeah.
Because, it would sound like a no-brainer. I've got the post, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
There's other things at play. Life comes into play. Right?
Exactly. And that's why I don't mean anything towards any people who choose the alternative where they choose to get married young, specialize young.
Yeah.
It's a great way. And it's just sometimes, like you say, life happens and you've got to pivot.
Yeah.
You got to change the plan and go on a different direction.
So you pull out, Prof is fuming.
Yeah.
And then what happens? How do you fix this up now?
So I decide for myself that I'm going to do a whole lot of courses, and maybe I'm not going to get to a specialist, but I'm going to do weekend courses and I'm going to build my general dentist portfolio to get that
So what, you accepted that you're not going to be a specialist at this stage?
I accepted that I'm going to be a prosthodontist.
Yeah. But you're not going to have that title of specialist.
Yes.
And you reconcile yourself to this and you were like, okay.
So I said prosthodontist, no, prosthodontist.
This is amazing, man. This is amazing.
Yeah. So I decided I'm going to do a whole lot of weekend courses. I'm going to do every endo course there is, every implant course there is, because implants were now becoming mainstream, every restorative course there is. And I could name names that, I mean, I was exposed to the ITI in private practice. And I remember
the ITI?
The ITI is the International Team for Implantology.
Okay.
It is an internationally based organization at, I wouldn't say the forefront, but they prioritize education in implant dentistry. So dissemination of evidence-based dentistry around the world.
Okay.
And so at some point, someone invited me for a meeting for the ITI when I was in private practice. And I'm trying to now do all of these courses. So I said, okay, I'm going. And I'm on my way. I get lost on the way to the meeting and I'm phoning the guy who invited me and he's not answering his phone. I turn around and I go home. So I missed out on that opportunity to learn about this organization.
Right.
So the first ever ITI meeting that I was invited for, I walked away from.
I want to pause because you know why I'm so shocked to hear that you had accepted that you're not going to be specialist prosthodontist at that stage.
Yeah.
It's because the you I know now, and I'm sure your colleagues and everything, they know that you are like, you're proudly a specialist prosthodontist.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a negative, like, or condescending. It's like, you really take it seriously. You are like part of that industry, one of the, most involved people I know as a specialist. So that's why I just wanted to take a moment to pause and say, that's why I'm surprised to hear this at this stage of your life.
It was that I think I was just too much in a comfort zone.
Right. Okay.
And I thought, here's a mistake. And the mistake that I made is that I thought that by doing weekend courses, I can get to the same levels as my dreams.
Okay.
And today I know this to be the furthest thing from the truth. My biggest regret today is not taking that post in 2009.
Okay.
Not doing this for longer, not being able to be in this role for a longer part of my life.
I'm glad you said, because I was going to ask. So, and I was thinking you're probably going to say, yeah, it was the right thing for you to do and not take it. But so you openly,
My biggest regret is that I feel I was born to be a prosthodontist.
Yeah.
And the fact that I didn't reach my dreams sooner, that's on me.
Okay.
And it's one of my big regrets.
All right. So when is this now that you said?
So this is now, I'm single, I'm dating, I'm partying, I'm going out with my brothers, going out with my friends.
Yeah.
And so for about 2 years.
And you're doing well financially also.
Yeah.
You bought
World Cup comes through.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a joy. That was a joy.
Yeah.
That was a joy.
That was peak South Africa. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
2010 was peak.
That was
South
the time
Africa.
to be single.
Okay.
That was the time to be single. Oh, it was a joy.
Yeah.
It
was peak South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
We need to go back to 2010.
Yeah.
In a few years' time. Hopefully. Yeah.
So, man, there was no limitation to my life at that point.
Right.
I could go everywhere. I could do everything. And I had my brothers with me. Both my brothers were working. Both of them were, we were all living together, I think my elder brother wasn't far away. He was married at the time. And
they're quite a successful bunch of brothers. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were tight. And with my cousins as well, we went everywhere together. We looked after each other. Right. So it was not like we were out doing reckless stuff. We were just safely having a good time. And at some point, man, I hit the ceiling again.
Right.
I was doing the courses. I just wasn't feeling that it was changing me. I felt that I could do more with my hands, but I didn't feel that I wasn't growing here.
Okay.
And that's, looking back, the big difference between dentistry and specialist dentistry is that as a prosthodontist, or as a specialist, you gain depth of knowledge. You expand the amount of knowledge you know in that subject to a point that as a general dentist, you'll learn the surface and you learn the shortcuts. You learn it from guys who have figured out those shortcuts and works in most of their patients. And that's just surface.
Okay.
And you realize that. You realize that you use the same recipe for every patient. And that's what I was doing.
Okay.
So when I hit that ceiling, I realized I'm not changing much. I'm just doing different things, but I'm doing all of the same things.
Okay. I get you.
And then it hit me again after 2 years. So at this point, so the girl that I separated from 2 years before that, I started dating her again.
Okay.
And then we were engaged. And then Fatima Ghani phones me up and she's like, hey, dude, do you still want to do prostos?
This is 2 years after you turned it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's like, hey, dude.
Yeah.
There's a prosto post available. Do you still want to do?
She's great though looking out for you. Hey?
Yeah. She's phenomenal like that. She's always been someone to look after her friends.
Because it's not like you were going and searching the papers, looking for
No.
vacancies and things like that.
No.
Okay, good.
It was amazing.
Clearly she saw something in you, obviously. Well, she knew that
we were friends. We were good friends from the university, from our old days at Wits.
Yeah.
And then she's like, dude, there's another prosto post available. Why don't you apply?
Yeah.
And
you're like, Prof will never let me back in.
Prof, I met Prof at a congress that year.
Yeah.
And it's like, Prof, I see there's another prosto post available. I want to apply.
Okay.
And he's like, don't even talk to me. Prof Dulab, if you ever see this, you'd remember. Prof is like, nope, we're done.
I hope you must share this with him. And
I'll share it with him. So Prof Dulab's like, nope, forget it. I was like, Prof, I really want to do this. And he's like, why do you want to do this? And I told him, I was like, I see more in myself than what I'm doing. I want to do more, but more importantly, I want to know more. And that's the difference, is that specializing gives you the knowledge to enforce your decisions.
Okay.
Whereas weekend courses, it gives you shortcuts to treat everybody with a new set of skills, but you don't know why.
Okay.
You just know how.
Okay.
And that's actually famously what Prof. Owen says. He says that undergrad is about teaching you how to do things. Postgrad and specializing is about teaching you why you do things. And so I speak to Prof. Owen and he's like, well, you know what? I'm not going to help you. You do your own thing. You know where the advert is. Apply. If you get an interview, if you get shortlisted, then we'll see. We'll see you when you get there. So I had zero support from Prof at that point, and he's like,
but probably I think deep down inside you had their support. Like they knew what they were doing.
So Prof, I loved Prof since undergrad days. He was, I think our class voted him our favorite lecturer.
Okay.
He was always, and that's something, he just exudes this love for everyone.
Right.
And it's hard. I think even though he may put up a brave front or a stern front sometimes, so like that time where he's like, don't even think about it.
Deep down
he's a softie.
Of course.
And he's like, put your name in. If it comes through, we'll see if you come out on the other end. So I go for the interview and I get the post.
Right.
And so Shaylin and Lals and myself, we go out that night and we got to Cubana. I can't even remember where it was, somewhere. And it was a fun night.
But this is in Pretoria?
No, well, I interviewed in Pretoria, but I went back to meet these guys for
where is that?
I think we were in Lane South.
Oh, in Joburg. Okay, yeah.
And we had a great night. And then shortly after, I found out that I got post. And so this was, I think, around August-ish. And I had to tie up my affairs and leave for Pretoria in December.
Leave home again. You didn't cry this time?
Well, this time I had someone with me, so I wasn't afraid.
Oh, okay.
So I was a little more comfortable with leaving home. But there was a point, and I don't think I say this story.
Yeah.
I keep this one to myself, but I think since we're unraveling everything.
Yeah.
When I remember at one point though, where I was thinking, so we were engaged at that point, and I was thinking to myself, okay, so now I've got to get a house. I've got to, we've got to move out. I've got to get a house. I've got to start figuring out my finances in a different way. And I remember I was in my shower and I just had the shower beating down on my back and I had my head against the tiles, my eyes closed, and I was just thinking, I need a change. I need a solution. And the week later, Fatima Ghani's message comes in.
Oh, wow.
So it was sort of this like...
That's amazing, eh?
It was sort of like the answer to my prayer.
Wow.
It was just this moment where I was looking for an answer.
I'm getting goosebumps now hearing the story. Yeah.
So I was figuring out how I'm gonna start surviving on my own. How am I going to start living a life with my wife, being on our own? And this message comes from Fatima saying, "Yeah, just..."
That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And so then I get to Tikkies to start my registrarship.
And wasn't as bad as you thought it might be? Don't say no comment. It worked out.
So when I get to Tikkies, let's tell a little story.
Yeah, please.
So we're gonna backtrack a bit.
Okay.
And I'm gonna digress a little. So
yeah, please digress as much as you need to.
Remember when I was single, right? And I was dating a bit. So I dated this girl. Somewhere in between. And back then when Facebook was the big social media to be on, then when you are in a relationship, you mark yourself in a relationship.
Yeah.
When you are single,
you set your status.
You set your status. When you're married, blah, blah, blah. So when I was dating, in that 2-year gap after my first application for Reg time, I changed my relationship status to single. And in my DMs, I get this message from this dental student, single, question mark.
Yeah.
All right. And I was like, yeah, I'm single. So she's like, okay, you want to get together sometime? And back then, any girl that even looked my way, I was like, hey, you want to go out for coffee?
Okay.
So, so I go out for coffee with this girl and we date a bit. We go out a few times and now I'm starting to see this as a potential relationship. I'm thinking, okay, this could work.
Something serious, yeah.
This could become something serious. And then after a few months of us going out a bit, I get a phone call from her. It was January somewhere. And I get a phone call from her and she's crying on the phone. I was like, what's going on? We can talk. And like after she calms down, she like tells me, my boyfriend just broke up with me. I'm like,
no, I didn't.
Like,
you must be thinking, no, I didn't.
I was like, who? What?
Yeah.
Boyfriend? And she's like, yeah, but it's okay. So now we can be together.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, yeah, no, it doesn't work like that, dear.
Wow.
So, so that was just a small incident that happened a few years before, but it actually comes back to haunt me. So when I get back to Tikkies on my first week,
when you get the post the second time and you're starting your first week,
so now I'm starting at Tikkies as a reg in Prosthodontics,
right?
Suit on.
Yeah, please don't tell me this woman is there or something like that.
No. Okay. So she wasn't there, but now I'm suiting up first day.
All right. I'm
pulling a Jeff Curry now.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm pulling a Jeff Curry. So suit on, and I want to show up for the job that.
Yeah.
What do they say? Dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
So I'm now dressing.
People must be like, who is this guy?
This douchey guy. So I show up suit day one, and the halls are empty. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
But after...
Paul, I love the fact that you said this douchey guy because it's like you own it. You know that people are going to judge you for it, right? But you still do it anyway.
Yeah.
Which is really, I take my hat off to people like that.
No, I think at the time I don't realize how douchey I'm being.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when I look back, I was like, yeah, no, I was really...
Because you and I both do things like publicly, like, I've got this podcast and I do things, and you also, your face is sometimes all over Facebook for ITI adverts and things like that.
Yeah. You just don't click on my OnlyFans.
We both appreciate, that's funny. But we both appreciate that there are going to be people out there thinking, look at this douchey guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you rock up with the suit.
And I go on with the suit for as long as I can. But also, a large part of that is ingrained in Wits culture, because at Wits, it used to be a thing where you must dress formally every day. Was formal shoes, formal pants, belt, shirt, tie. That was that was the dress code.
Okay.
And
but don't blame Wits. You like the suit. You wanted to wear the suit.
I think it maybe just tied some knots together.
It reaffirmed the things.
Yes.
Right?
So that's how I came to work every day, was formal.
Okay.
Formal clothes, ties, formal shirt. Good. But just day one was suit. And then eventually...
but you were telling the story now.
Yeah. So
it's not the woman that you meet, but please, this is...
Yeah. So no, it's not the woman. The girl that I was dating was not there. But I run into someone that I knew from the past.
Right.
And I ran into Prof. Sykes.
Okay.
And she used to teach me at Wits. She was Dr. Sykes then. And I remember her. So I was like...
The one who said, you got talent.
Exactly. She said that I'm really good at this.
She recognized you?
That's what I thought. So she said she knows me from somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I was like, yeah, Prof, you used to teach me. And actually, there's a funny story. You sort of got me leaning in this direction towards Prosto. So I actually wanted to come and thank you for just, setting off that little spark in me. And she's like, no, that's not where I know you from. I was like, thanks for deflating my balloon.
But it's okay.
They
see millions of students.
Yeah.
You can forgive them. Yeah?
Exactly. I mean, I can barely remember all the students that have gone through my...
So why does she recognize you?
So she says, no, I know you from somewhere else. I was like, okay, Prof, where do you know me from? And she's like, do you know this person? And she mentioned someone's name. I was like, no. She's like, yes, that's where I know you from. It's like, okay, Prof, please unpackage this. And she's like, okay, well, this guy that I know came to me and showed me your photos. It's like, why would some random guy show you my photos? And she's like, because he used to say that his girlfriend is cheating on him with you.
Yeah.
And then the penny dropped that...
Oh my, he's the other guy.
He's the other guy.
Who happens to know Prof. Sykes.
Well, yeah, so he happened to know Prof. Sykes. It was such a small world that this girl that I was dating, and I had no idea that she had a boyfriend.
Yeah.
But this girl that I was dating,
yes.
And the boyfriend knew Prof. Sykes.
My goodness.
So like he would go to Prof. Sykes and show photos of me and say, this is the guy who's cheating.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my girlfriend
is cheating. You rock up there all
I show up
swanky.
Snazzy with my suit.
Look at this player. This player is with me now.
Right.
That's brilliant.
It said us. So I was already like...
In her mind, you just this like...
Man, have you ever seen a
family
brown...
wrecker.
Have you ever seen a brown person turn red?
Oh, that's brilliant.
So she thinks I'm like this home wrecker.
Yes, home wrecker. Exactly. That's the word I was looking for.
No, but
it worked out.
I think I don't know what ended up happening with them.
No, I mean for you, you and Prof. Sykes.
Well, yes, cool, and we're still very close.
Yeah.
But we eventually had a good laugh.
A brilliant story.
How small this world is.
Sometimes too small.
Yeah. And so...
Moral of the story is get off Facebook, guys. Come on. Yeah.
Facebook is just it's so large. It's so 1990.
I'm there though, don't worry. I'm old enough to be back on.
Yeah. So
so I'm guessing the Reg post, you breezed through it. It was brilliant. And
Reg post is when it all came together.
Okay.
So it was this sudden realization of this is where I'm meant to be. It was this... I remember my first journal discussion, the first time I had to present, was it was a journal that I had researched. So for journal discussion, those that don't know, is that you have to find an article that you think that the panel of specialists and other registrars who will then judge you based on your choice of article and your critique of the evidence. So that's what Journal Club is about. So I had to present my journal article, and I had selected one on the accuracy of dental implant impressions.
Okay.
So it was sort of a review paper, which a review paper is a consolidation of all the evidence that puts it together to put out a statement to say that all the evidence is pointing in this direction, therefore the the conclusion is this.
Okay.
And that was my first journal discussion, my first presentation that I ever gave as a registrar.
Yeah. First of many, because you got to do many over there.
Yes, yes. You've got to do them regularly.
Yeah.
You've got to do these. You've got to do seminars, which is a much bigger animal.
Yeah.
But my first journal discussion is sort of where it all just came cascading. So remember I told you my mom sent us to speech and drama classes. She used to send us to pay for bills. She wanted for us, for my younger brother and I, who have become quite the orator. Yeah. So both of us are in public spaces and we speak to people a lot and we give lectures a lot. The two of us that went to drama classes, it's because we developed these skills to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And so many people have stage fright. So many people are afraid of crowds. They are brilliant clinicians, brilliant academics, but they just can't stand up in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
And this was something that my mom has instilled in me since the time I was 5 years old.
Such a good thing. Yeah.
And, and that's where it all started to come together. And then when I was at Wits in undergrad, because we were the first class, we did this thing called problem-based learning.
Okay.
And problem-based learning was where they put you into groups and you have to discuss certain scenarios where, let's assume that you're doing anatomy at one point. I remember the first one we ever did was titled, What Has Toko Found?
Okay.
And it was about this little girl named Toko who found these teeth out in the bush and she didn't know what teeth they were. And then you have to talk about anatomy of human teeth. Was it human teeth? Was it animal teeth? And it sort of ties in with the subjects that you're doing at the same time.
Yeah.
So you're doing anatomy, you're doing physiology. So you look at the wear patterns. You're doing, so you have to identify if it's a human tooth, if it's an animal tooth, and all of these things. So you sort of tie it all together. And then at the end, your group gives a PowerPoint presentation on that case.
Yeah, I would pick you to go, please.
But that's sort of the thing is that PowerPoint for me is a second language because I'd been doing it since first year dentistry.
I heard that your presentations are top notch. I haven't actually seen one yet. Maybe I have one or two, but people talk about your presentations.
I try. I try.
So the seminar, is this wherever you were in the zone, the first journal discussion? Sorry.
And no, so then that was just being able to do these presentations. And then I remember there was a Dr. Mladenova. I don't know if she's still at Wits, but she taught us radiology. And she, in her Eastern European accent, she would tell us, she would teach us how to do mind maps.
Okay.
All right. And mind maps, the whole class got it wrong on how to do a mind map. And she taught us this way of mapping your thoughts out and drawing these mind maps of all of your thoughts at the same time. And like I said, in Red's time, it all just came cascading together in a way that was almost, it was written in the stars for me because it just clicked. My first presentation, so instead of doing a PowerPoint presentation, I took the whiteboard and a marker and I just mind mapped this whole journal article out, this review paper, and every single article they cited, I wrote out every single one of those authors, their dates, I discussed their articles, and it was this moment where I was
in the zone.
I was in the zone. I knew this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I'm cut out for. I was born to do this. And then when they asked, so at the end of your discussion, the panel has to then give their feedback and critique and what they think would be. And I remember,
that's an intimidating space, right?
It is. Because now there's people who've been doing this for decades already.
Yeah.
And you are here on your first day and you have to now take a hammering from everyone that knows everything about this subject that you've only set one foot in.
A toe in, dipped a toe in.
Yeah, not even. You can just get a whiff of it in the air.
Yeah.
And I remember Dirk Herbst was my supervisor.
Yes.
He was the consultant there. And he and I, we know each other really well today. And he said, "You've already impressed me enough."
Lovely.
And he had no comment. And I was like, I felt humbled.
That's awesome.
I felt that.
Yeah.
I felt I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
I felt this is where I belong. I'm doing now the work I've always dreamt of.
So cool, man. You're one of very few people that can say that kind of thing.
Yeah. And everything from that point on, I mean, going on to then taking that and building it into seminars, into full-on lectures for students for our registrarship purposes. It became something I enjoyed because it took all of these talents I'd built up over the years. It's my artistic appreciation for things. It's identifying the difference in colors, identifying how things they look more aesthetic versus all the academics I've gained in, studying over the years, my appreciation for anatomy, physiology, dentistry, prosthetics. I'm finally able to tie it all together in a way that makes the most sense to me. And Red's time for me was some of the best times in my life.
Amazing.
I've made incredible friends, connections, mentors.
Yeah.
And I've seen the world differently since becoming a registrar. You don't see things the same way anymore.
Because you know why? Registrar time has a reputation for being something that drains and kills people.
It breaks you down.
Changes personalities and...
Yeah, it breaks you down.
But you didn't have that feeling, or?
I felt that it fed me.
Oh, that's so lovely, man.
It was fulfilling.
Yeah.
And I cannot... shame, I actually... well, I'll get to this later. But so in my house, we got very lucky when we moved to Pretoria.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This woman had a house on the market for a long time. I don't know what the circumstances were. I think there was talks of a divorce or something. But her house was on the market for a long time, and she couldn't find a buyer. So the estate agent's like, lowball her,
okay,
and see if you can just get away with it.
Yeah.
And we actually. Our offer got accepted. So we got a really nice house at a relatively lower market price.
Right.
And it's a 4-story house, but on the ground floor is like the garage and what was a sort of servants' quarters. It had an ensuite bathroom and all of that. And then you go up a flight of stairs, and then that's the kitchen. There's a winter lounge. There's another lounge and the pantries and all that. You go upstairs, there's a guest bathroom, master bedroom, ensuite, walk-in closet. You go up another set of stairs, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But on that ground floor, that old servants' quarters that they had, we turned that into a study.
Okay.
And we called it the dungeon.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that dungeon was that every time I had a deadline, my wife would lock me in there.
Yeah.
All right. So she would only unlock it. So it was time-based.
Okay.
So no phone. There's my laptop.
Yeah.
All my textbooks, my journal articles, which we would print. So I couldn't read journal articles from a screen at that point. I just couldn't get used to it. I was still very analog.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's much easier to read from paper.
Yeah. So I always printed out my journal articles. So now I don't need the internet for that. So I'm not, scrolling reels on Insta. I'm not scrolling Facebook. I'm just focused in the zone. So I cannot take away my wife's role in my position.
Oh,
today,
yeah.
Because we couldn't even have guests over. Her family would not come to visit. And if they came to visit, or even my family, if anyone came to visit, she would make sure that the TV is on lowest volume. They can barely hear the TV. Everyone is quiet. Everyone's walking on eggshells because I'm downstairs doing a seminar, studying for an exam, working on something or the other. So it was...
So you had it was proper reg time also. It wasn't like you were just breezing through it.
No.
I'm glad to hear this because
make no mistake, reg time it's crippling.
Yeah.
It will destroy you. People...
I've been on the other end. So I've been on your wife's side of things.
Right.
Living with somebody who's reg. Yeah.
And relationships suffer. People get divorced in reg time.
Yeah.
It's so taxing on a relationship.
Yeah. I was shocked because I heard these stories.
Yeah.
But seeing it firsthand, it's like, it's scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's one person that's taking... The entire relationship is revolving around one person. And it's like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, no exaggeration. Like, so people watching this that are not specialists or thinking of specializing, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
You've got to live and breathe. And it's not just you, it's your spouse or your partner that has to live and breathe that with you.
Yeah, and you won't be going to family events and you'll be missing nice things that are happening for at least 4 years of your life.
Yes. And so she'd lock me in the dungeon and I would get to work, and I would only be unlocked when it was time to eat or time to sleep.
Yeah.
And
that's a good way to keep you away.
Yeah. which was pretty good because I'm a hard guy to live. So,
brilliant.
Yeah. So
it obviously worked out and everything went well there.
Yeah, I think.
Any interesting stories, or what happens next?
In Red's time.
Yeah.
In Red's time, I made the best of friends. Yeah. I mean, Raj Dulab, he was always like a bigger brother to me.
Yeah.
So going into Red's time, I think there was maybe 3 patients that I treated with implants before becoming a registrar in Prosthodontics.
Mm-hmm.
If Dasendra Naidu's ever watching, he's in, I think it's New Zealand or Australia right now. He used to do my surgery for me. So he would place my implants and he would also teach me how to restore the crowns.
Okay.
My first implant crown I ever delivered, I don't even know. So it was a southern external hex implant in a premolar site. I think it was a 1-4 site. And so he placed the implant for me. And then he taught me how to take an impression.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, okay, I'm going to leave the components with you. When the crown comes in, you put the crown in, you tighten this 32 Newton centimeters.
Mm-hmm.
Don't exceed this marker on this torque wrench.
Mm-hmm.
And then you close it up. You put in, well, then we used cotton wool. We didn't use plumber's tape.
Okay.
So you pack in some cotton wool and then you fill it up with composite, adjust the bite, and everything should be fine. So that was, I remember, the first implant case I did. Work comes from the lab. I follow to the T what he told me. Deliver the crown, patient's on his way. I phoned Das and I told him, by the way, he's one of the guys who organized my bachelor party for me as well.
Okay.
But so I don't know if you probably know these guys.
Yeah.
My old friends from Durban, Das, Megan Naidu, Kay Mudley.
The names ring a bell, yeah.
Yeah, so all these guys from Durban, they're all great guys. But I was talking to Megan just recently. So at the SADA Congress, I'm probably going to go and see them again. Kay Govender.
Okay.
But yeah. And Kessin Mudley as well.
All right.
I got the 2 guys mixed up. So yeah, so they were great guys. So anyway, I phoned Das up. I'm like, everything went well. I delivered the crown, but then I got the spare screw with me. She says, what spare screw? I said, the one that comes in the packet. She said, what screw did you use to deliver the crown? It's like the one that came with the lab work. It's like, you mean the brass screw? So for those that don't know implantology, you do not use a brass screw. That is a laboratory screw. It is a non-sterile. It is it will break. It's not designed to withstand biting forces. So I was like, I didn't know I'm supposed to swap the screws out. He said, yeah, the one in the packet is the sterile screw that you have to swap out. So I remember that case was my first one. So then I had to call the patient back like as soon as I found out.
Yeah.
And then I had to drill the whole thing out, take out the screw, put the new screw in and tell the patient, this was my first one, blah, blah, blah. But going into Reg time then, I'd only done maybe 3 implants in my career.
Yeah.
And now we have to live, work, breathe implants. We're discussing implants every day. And I know this much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I threw myself into the deep end. So I told Raj, every implant case that's in for a complication, send it my way.
Okay.
So I asked Raj first to teach me a few things because he'd been doing good private practice in using implants and all of that. He'd been doing advanced restorative dentistry for a long time.
Okay.
So Raj taught me a few things. He taught me how to do things right. And then I said, okay, now I'm going to go into the deep end. And every single patient that came in for a complication, I took the patient on. So it wasn't part of my portfolio.
Yeah.
But it was patients that I wanted to get my hands wet. It was a steep learning curve and I wanted to climb that curve as fast as I could. So I took on every case that walked in the door.
Wow. Okay.
And I tried to climb that curve really quickly.
As if the normal stuff wasn't enough. You wanted to just give yourself more.
Yeah. But I knew because I was on a back foot. So I knew Raj is starting because he knew so much more than me.
Oh, okay.
And I knew that to get to the level that I need to be at, I need to do more work. So, so Raj, he's always been like a bigger brother to me. And he's someone that I could always go to for any advice. Even now, we supervise together on on Wednesday mornings.
Okay.
If I ever need a second opinion on something, I always go to him. I was like, Raj, just have a look at this for me. So I made some of my closest friends there, and that was also where I was again introduced to the ITI.
Right.
And so
during Registrar.
Yeah. So we were forced to join the ITI through Andre van Zyl.
Right.
So Prof. Andre van Zyl is he's a periodontist down in Hermanus.
Oh, he's in Hermanus, okay.
Yeah. So he used to be the head of perio at Tikkies.
Yeah, he had long wavy hair.
Yeah,
he looked like
he looked like Bill Nye the Science Guy.
To me, he looked like a bit like Robert Redford. Oh, not Robert Redford. What are these Hollywood people?
Yes,
anyway,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, he looked like Bill Nye the Science Guy in Underworld, when they dressed him up like a vampire with long hair.
Okay. I don't know.
I always saw it, and he always had this like stern, but in a good looking way.
Yeah, I felt he was a handsome guy. He looked like Hollywood.
Yeah, always had this like long wavy hair. So anyway, so Prof. van Zyl, he insisted. Well, first Prof. Dulab arranged for us to attend his ITI course that he held as a compulsory event for all of his registrars.
Okay.
And so there was this diploma that was run out of UP, and Andre van Zyl was the coordinator for that.
Yeah.
And Prof. van Zyl had arranged with him to take us on to attend his course for free.
Okay.
No, not for free. I think we paid like a nominal charge.
Yeah. But can you explain like how the periodontist and the prosthodontist interface in this implant?
So in implantology, there's the surgical side and there's the restorative side.
Yeah.
The surgical side is placing that titanium screw into the bone.
Yeah. Explain it for my lawyer viewers.
So,
because if I think of implant, I just think it's this fake tooth that goes into your mouth, into the bone.
Right. So when you lose a tooth, the bone undergoes changes. So the bone shrinks. And sometimes there's enough bone to retain an implant, and sometimes there's not enough bone. And if there's not enough bone, then you've got to then add bone to it.
Okay.
Or you come up with another plan.
Right.
But in most cases where you can get the implant in, then you drill a hole in the bone.
Okay.
And you take the sterile titanium screw that will then be inserted into the hole.
Right.
And it'll take about 3 months for the bone to turn over and heal around this implant.
This screw. So it's like a big looking screw thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's sort of biocompatible.
Yeah.
So the body doesn't reject it.
Okay.
And it gives us a platform on the inside. So there's a screw channel inside this implant that we can then screw components to on top.
Okay.
To make it look like a tooth.
Okay. So the perios do what and the prostos do what in that?
So the perios and maxillofacial surgeons and general dentists can place implants in the mouth.
And placing implants means?
Means cutting the gum, opening the gum up, drilling the hole in the bone, and then placing the implant inside.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they cover it up.
Yeah. So that's not the tooth. The tooth is not there. The tooth looking thing.
Yeah. The tooth part is separate.
Yeah.
Now, restorative dentists or prosthodontists can build the tooth on top of that.
Yeah.
Now,
that's where you come in.
Well, yes, but a lot of people will ask, why do I need to go to a prosthodontist for this?
Okay. As opposed to?
As to a general dentist, where it's significantly cheaper.
Right.
And sometimes a lot quicker.
Okay.
The difference is all in the planning.
Okay.
So with us, and I'm not saying that general dentists are not as good in terms of execution. There are some brilliant general dentists out there. But what we do differs in a way that we don't see just the hole, just that one tooth that's missing. We treat the patient in a more holistic manner. So we look at different things. We look at the bite. We look at the general harmony of the face. We look at the mechanics of that implant, more than just a screw holding a tooth.
Yeah.
We look at the optimal way for this tooth to deliver the biting force into the implant to dissipate those forces in a way that it's going to last the longest with the least complications over time.
I get you.
Whereas without that kind of planning, you may just put in the implant, put in the crown, and you may have a crown where the screw loosens every few months or years, or the porcelain chips often, or the crown breaks, or you break the implant, or you've lost bone around the implant.
Okay, perfect.
So these are the things where we sort of try to mitigate our risk to be as low as possible.
Okay. Okay. So, well, thanks for that. So, and how I got to this question of you giving me the implantology for dummies is I was saying, okay, so explain to me why Prof. Van Zyl is telling Prof. Dulab to get his people to join ITI. And what is ITI?
So the ITI, like I said earlier, it's like this international organization that uses education to empower people to perform dental implantology in their practices. Yeah. So it uses generations worth of studies, of evidence, and they put out consensus reports. They put out guidelines on how we should be treating patients in implantology. Okay. And that's everything from your single tooth implant to dentures clicking onto implants to a full set of teeth screwed down onto implants. Okay. So it's only for specialists, or? No, it's for everyone. It's even for, it can be any general dentist, any specialist. It doesn't even have to be a prosthodontist or a periodontist or a maxvac. I even know an orthodontics registrar who's still in our ITI study club. Okay. So the ITI just basically facilitates the discussion. They allow you to have the discussion about implants, about treatment planning, about how to give your patient better outcomes, more than just the guesswork of implant, crown, goodbye. And as far as I know, you're one of the big shots in the ITI, or not? Or what's your role there? Yeah, because it resonates with me. So what do you do there? So, well, let's go back to Andre Van Zyl. Yeah, please. So Andre Van Zyl insisted that if we do his course, we need to become ITI members. Okay. And now I had a bit of a problem with it at first. I was like, why do I need to join an organization just to do this course that I'm paying for anyway? Okay. In retrospect, that was one of the silliest things I could have ever thought. Okay. Because once you do the course and once you are introduced to the wealth of knowledge the ITI gives you access to, it's a no-brainer. Okay. And any dentist that even does one implant a month, one implant a year, can benefit from this. It is a relatively small membership fee. I think if you're under 35, the membership fee is like €100 or something, which was actually like 1,800 Rand or something. But it ranges depending on your role. If you are like I'm an ITI fellow, which is a different ranking. It's like when your peers acknowledge you as a fellow, you get that status. So you can't just apply and get it. No. Yeah. So most people are just members. Okay. And there's nominal membership fees for those. But access to information, that's what it's about. It's once you become a member, you get access to this treasure trove of generations worth of information. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to get you'd have to get a special registration with the university to access their libraries, and they may or may not give you all the articles that you need if you want to research a topic. Okay. The ITI consolidates all of that information for you. They put out consensus statements. They put out all of the information in a way that anything that you want to know is laid out in an organized fashion. And they even run courses. In South Africa, there's a course run by Jean van Leerop and Sune, Mulder van Staden. Yes. And Ridwan Haffiji, the ITI curriculum. That's a course for entry-level dentists. Howard Gluckman runs a course. But, the ITI course itself, it's opening these young dentists to this treasure trove of information, and it's teaching them how to access the information in a way that sequentially gives you this journey to implantology. Okay. So that's what the ITI was. And at that point, it was just now being able to access it. And then you realize that all of the information you need to know about implants is within this organization. Okay. They have textbooks where they would give you their consensus statements. They would give you guidelines on how to treat patients. Then they have major conferences where they discuss it. And then once you see that amount of wealth of information, that's what identified with me. Okay. So now Andre Van Zyl just opened my eyes to and it took me the blink of an eye to just see that this is valuable. Yeah? I believe in what they believe. Okay. And then when we were doing that perio module, at one point I had to give a perio seminar. And so as part of your registrarship time, you spend time in the perio department. and you have to give seminars in their department.
Okay.
And when I presented, there were 2 visiting specialists that were attending, Christian Foster and Paul van Zyl.
Okay.
They were 2 prosthodontists from Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
And they both sat in on my seminar.
Yeah.
And maybe they saw something at that point, but then I linked up with them after at the hands-on, and I did the hands-on, and I won a prize at that hands-on for that ITI week that they were there for.
Okay.
So I won a prize because of the prosthetics that I had to do for that. And then Christian and Paul came and talked to me after that, and they're like, yeah, we want to see more of you and all of these things. And I didn't really think it was something big just yet, but what ended up happening in the wake of that was that, so they saw me lecture at that point, and at some point someone put my name forward, and my high suspicions were that it was Christian and Paul, because not many people outside the university knew me at that point.
Right.
But they put my name, or someone put my name forward to lecture when IFED came to South Africa.
Right.
The International Federation for Aesthetic Dentistry.
Okay.
And then the Prosthodontics Academy was also having a side session at that.
Yeah.
And then my name was put forward to give a lecture with Irina Saylor. So Irina Saylor is one of the biggest prosthodontists in the world.
Okay.
She is phenomenal.
Where is she based?
She's based in Switzerland.
Okay.
And in fact, most of the ITI consensus stuff she's worked on. She's published textbooks. She's, I think, the editor, stand to be corrected, editor-in-chief for International Journal of Prosthodontics.
Okay.
But Irina Saylor is one of the biggest names in prosthodontics. And so here's me and Irina Saylor lecturing, the only 2 lectures on the stage at that.
That's cool.
So, and I'm a registrar. I'm a junior.
That's amazing.
This is 2015. I'm like second year or something.
Cool. Yeah.
And I'm lecturing with Irina Saylor. And, so the Academy of Prosthodontics and the ITI now are sort of both starting to align with my beliefs. And the Academy of Prosthodontics for me was the House of Lords.
Okay.
That is where all my mentors lived. That's the Dale House. That's the Peter Owen.
Yeah.
That's the Hemant Dulab. So all the prosthodontists in the country, most of the prosthodontists in the country subscribe to the Academy of Prosthodontics.
Yeah,
so that's
the
like
members of that.
That's like the SADA for prosthodontists.
Yeah.
So they have these annual meetings, and I had to present at the APSA breakaway with Irina Saylor. And that was a great experience. And then I went on to lecture back at our university, giving seminar after seminar. And at some point, I got an invite. And this was 2016.
Still a reg.
Yeah. Still doing my thing. I'm still getting through my daily routines, giving my seminars, giving my journal discussions. 2016 somewhere, I get an invite from the ITI in Basel to give a lecture at their World Symposium in 2017.
Yeah.
And now I didn't think, this isn't happening.
Yeah. Did they send it to the wrong person?
This is not, this is just me. This is the little kid from Tongaat with no central incisor, and I'm being called on to
a global platform.
Not just a global, it's the biggest implant dentistry congress in the world. And I know it was Paul van Zyl or Christian that had something to do with it by putting my name forward as one of the speakers. And then there were other education weeks that came up. I remember there was a speaker competition that came up afterwards. And I thought that my post or my ability to lecture at that conference was predicated on me winning a competition or jumping through other hoops of fire to get to that point. So there was the speaker competition that took place. I remember Rudy Garana, myself, and Michael had to take part, and we had to speak up against each other, and Rudy won the thing.
Okay.
And the guy put together a phenomenal presentation. And so I came out, I think they just announced the winners, which was Rudy. And I thought, well, that's it then. There goes that dream.
Mm.
And then a week later, I'm going through my emails, and then Daniel Vismeyer says, no, Daniel Vismeyer is one of the organizers up at the ITI head office. And he's like, he wants my abstract urgently because it's overdue.
Where's their head office?
Basel, in Switzerland.
Right.
Or Bern, one of the two.
Yeah.
So, like he says, my abstract is overdue.
Mm-hmm.
So like, no, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I'm coming because I did. He's like, no, we don't know anything about a competition. You are on the program.
Yeah.
We need your stuff ASAP. So I was like, okay, let's do this. So now I realized, and it was a very surreal moment because now I realize I'm going to the show.
Yeah.
I'm at the table. So now I'm a final year reg, and I'm invited now to speak at this international symposium.
Yeah.
And they had me lecturing at the breakaway for, I think it was managing implant complications or managing complex cases.
Okay.
And I was giving my lecture there. That was a very terrifying moment because I'd never been around that many people in one room in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I've been to concerts and stuff, but not in that academic sphere.
Of course.
Academic sphere.
Yeah.
And so it's my turn to go up, and so admittedly, it was not the main stage, which was like 5,000 people.
Okay.
Mine was a breakaway where there were several hundred. I don't know how many exactly.
Oh, just only several hundred. Yeah.
Several hundreds. Yeah. And so I go up on stage, and the whole South African cohort came to my lecture. And but that's how South Africans are.
Yeah.
When we go abroad, everyone just shows up for whoever's speaking when they're South African. And that's one thing you cannot take away. It's like, I mean, whether people like me or not, they were there because they were just supporting.
Yeah. You're representing the bigger picture.
Yeah. So then I think that year it was Lira, Rahman, and myself. We were both lecturing.
Yeah.
But Lira was representing Switzerland because she was at Bern University at that time.
Oh, okay.
So I gave my lecture, and I remember I got up on stage, and it was the first time I felt nervous because, I mean, this is international. I've never done that. This is my first international anything lecture. And I remember the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I had the script memorized in my mind, and I know never go scripted.
Yeah.
Never go
over-rehearse the thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Never go scripted.
Yeah.
And I had to memorize this thing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, I first want to thank Urs Pelzer for, it was Urs Braga. I wanted to say, I want to thank Urs Braga for welcoming me to the stage and the ITI for hosting me here today.
Yeah.
But I said, I want to thank Urs Braga for hosting me, for inviting me to the stage. And I want to thank the ITI for holding me here today. And immediately, like the blood drains from my face. I'm like, okay, I'm going off script. I'm going off script. And it's like, okay, let's just calm down.
Yeah.
And like my voice is quivering. And then I give my introduction. We're going to talk about crown to implant ratio. And I put up my first slide. And that was the moment it changed.
Yeah.
The moment my first slide went up, it's like this sea of hands come up with cameras.
Okay.
And they start taking photos.
Yeah.
It's like you just see this entire sea, like a tsunami, just everything comes up and then photographs start going off.
Yeah.
And that was the sort of aha moment where I realized I'm here.
Yeah. You've got value to add. People want to see what you're giving.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like, I know this stuff.
Yeah.
I've given this lecture before. I've practiced. I've rehearsed this. They are here to see me. And that was the moment. And it suddenly just clicked. And then it started flowing.
Oh, I love it.
And then it was smooth.
That's awesome.
And it was like this just peak where I made this one slip up, and once those hands raised up and I saw all these cameras, and I realized they're here for me. Deliver.
Exactly.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
And that's why every time before I give a lecture now, I tell my wife, it's go time. Because it was that moment. It's like, it's time to go. It's go time.
It's a fascinating story, this.
Yeah.
People won't know that you go through all the self-doubt and you like get
emotional.
nervous.
It's so emotional. And so I let it flow. At the end, there was questions and answers. There's a guy, I forget his name now, Paul Fugazotto from Boston University. Afterwards, he came to me and it's like, I love the way you lecture. And he's famous for his bow ties and his shoes and his socks. But he came to me from Boston and it's like, I love the way you lecture. I'd love to have you over sometime.
That's so awesome.
And
he doesn't have to say that to you.
No.
Yeah.
But it was such a humbling thing where it made me feel, yes, this is it.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it. I'm living that dream.
That's so cool. So that was the first international one.
That was the first international. But then a month later, I was in Zurich.
Okay. It just started to, the floodgates opened.
Yeah. And then I lectured a bit giving my research, and I presented a few cases at ICP. I think it was in Seoul, in South Korea, in Chile. I don't remember. I did some stuff in Lisbon.
So this is taking you all over the world.
Yeah. Dentistry has taken me to places I could...
I mean, you've just come back from Montenegro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an amazing experience.
It looks beautiful. I saw on your Instagram.
Yeah. The people there are lovely. So I gave them a lecture on aesthetic considerations around implants. So it's about how to put those final touches, the polish, how to get your tooth to disappear within the mouth so that people don't realize that that's artificial.
Oh, sure.
So it's
well. So now international lectures are just, do you get nervous or
no, not me.
Really? You like excited, nervous or
no,
not even.
There's no nerves.
Really?
Yeah. Now there's no nerves.
That's awesome.
It's.
But I mean, you've been doing it from what, second year, third year, what is it, fourth year?
Yeah, but I think so I lecture. I lecture a lot. Privately, I lecture for the ITI. I run the Pretoria Study Club with Shan Naidu.
Okay, yeah.
We are the co-directors of the Pretoria-based
That's
ITI.
the Max Facts. Yeah.
Also a great friend. So we run the Pretoria Study Club for the ITI. So standing in front of an audience is not a problem. It's for me, I get to deliver my philosophy on what I believe in dentistry, and I get to teach what I do. I don't teach things that I'm out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
If I'm up there lecturing on something, it's because I'm teaching. I use my cases to enforce the message, because I'm showing what I do. I'm showing how I do it, and I treat using the evidence.
You're the subject matter expert. You're speaking about what you know about. Nobody knows it better than you.
Right. And that was something that Dirk always said, is that when you give a seminar, so Dirk Harps, he always told me that when you give a lecture or a seminar, you own that topic. You are the master of that topic because you've researched it, you've done the background. So there's nobody that should be able to approach you after and ask you a question that's going to stump you.
Yeah.
And that's always resonated with me, because every time now I go to prep for a lecture, it may sometimes be some parts of another lecture repeated, but it's always current.
Yeah.
I would always go back to the evidence and pick up the most current evidence and augment with more evidence and more literature. And if the message has changed, so be it.
Yeah.
Because we don't think the same things that we thought 20 years ago.
Even if the messages are repeated, it's reinforcement.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to appreciate it.
Yes.
You don't change it for the sake of changing it.
Yeah, and on the flight to Montenegro now, I remember my wife said something to me about we support you all the way.
Yeah.
And I sent a message back to her, and I actually meant it. I felt it in me. I was like, you've given me the wings to fly.
Sure.
Because I'm doing all of this. I'm touring the world. I'm invited
doing what you love.
I'm invited as a lecturer all around the world. And it's because she's uplifted me to that point in my life.
Yeah, hats off to her. Yeah.
And that's something we maybe take too much for granted, where the support, especially as a specialist, I mean, you take for granted the sacrifices your spouse or your partner makes to get you to that point. And that was something I said to her, where it's, I'm here because
you probably get so engrossed in your work and so like focused, and sometimes maybe neglect something on the sideline, and they've got to appreciate that this person's pushing their passion.
And like here in this practice, this is my passion. What I do here, it's supported by the evidence. And what my receptionist Ananya, she told me recently that we need to display more of our cases, because the patients that walk out of here, it's the cases I show on stage. It's case selection because I want to show how to do things.
Yeah.
But every case we put out is at that level. We don't show our fanciest cases.
Right.
We show every case comes out looking like that. It's just for the message I want to deliver, that's the case I'm showing. But we show our case, well, actually, every single case walks out with those kind of results, because when I treat with the evidence in mind. So I'm using the scientific literature to support my treatment making decisions.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what prosthodontics is. It's about using the science to back up your decision making process.
So do your patients, you obviously after Reg time, you got into private practice.
Yeah.
And you now on what's this address?
565 Mendelssohn Street.
In Pretoria, right? Capital Prosthodontics, right? You're obviously doing well. I mean, I need to take some video walking around later and put it up. But my question is like, how do you show your patients your passion? Like, do you think it comes through, or because remember, patients just Google us, and come to us, say prosthodontist near me, or get referred. They don't know all the stuff that goes behind everything. How do you show it to them?
I don't show. Like I said, me.
Or maybe I shouldn't be asking you this question. I should ask a patient.
I think there's a different message.
Yeah.
So me accepting this part of myself and this history behind what makes me is a recent acknowledgement. It's something that I've only recently accepted, that it's something I want known.
Okay.
Because I've tried to hide it so much.
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that maybe I didn't want people to know that I've had this massive trauma, that I didn't want people looking and scrutinizing my incisors. Okay, which one is the crown? Which one? So maybe I just didn't want anyone drawing, or I didn't want to draw any attention to that part.
Yeah.
So I've
even though it's part of you.
It's a part of me.
It's part of you. It's part of your profession.
It's the catalyst.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I've recently realized, is that who I am today is because of all of these little nudges in this direction that's brought me here.
All those seeds that were planted, all the family that brought you up.
Yeah, all those mentors. And that's also why I take teaching and mentoring so seriously.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I love teaching. And any of the dentists that come out of Tikkies will tell you that the message that I give to them is that when they go out into private practice, they have my cell number. They are welcome to approach me at any point. WhatsApp me. I'll help them with their cases. I want them to make good decisions.
We didn't touch on that though. What's your role at the university, or where?
I'm part-time clinical supervisor at Tikkies, so at University of Pretoria in the postgrad and undergraduate programs.
Right.
So I help develop the next generation of specialists.
Right. And you lecture and stuff and all that.
Lecture is a loose word.
Yeah.
I mostly clinically supervise, but I am going to be giving them a lecture later in this year.
All right.
Lecturing takes time. To prepare a 1 hour lecture takes about 8 hours of prep. So
But then where do you get the time anyway to do this part-time stuff and private practice and ITI and EPSA?
I have to make the time.
Okay.
Yeah, family time sacrifices. So I haven't even, I can't remember the last time I've been home to my folks' place in Durban. But and sometimes like my mom will tell me, we want to go away next weekend to the Drakensberg or wherever. And it's like, I booked my calendar out like 7 or 8 months in advance. You can't
I know this. That's why I was like so happy when I could get you on the show. Like, yeah.
So yeah, it's so I'm a part-time supervisor at Techies, and but I've got to make time. And I can't remember the movie. If you never make the time, how can you ever take the time?
Okay.
But yeah, I have to make the time between it all. You got to keep reading. When I'm traveling, when I'm flying, when I'm just sitting at home, I've got an article on my cell phone. I'm reading through it.
Yeah, you eat, sleep, breathe this work. What do you do for fun? Apart from work, what do you do for fun?
Well, I'm hoping we're going to play paddle soon.
Okay, yeah, we must start that.
Yeah. I play soccer.
Yeah. Like five-a-side or?
Yeah, five-a-side.
Yeah.
Well, you know how it goes. Sometimes it's six-a-side, sometimes it's seven-a-side, as many as they can squeeze into a field.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to play indoor. I haven't played in about a year now.
Yeah.
But
and what's next? I mean, this practice is going to expand, right? I mean,
yeah, there's more coming in this practice.
Yeah.
There's things happening here. But yeah, I still train. I go to the gym often.
Yeah. Movies. You seem to be big into movies.
I love pop culture references. Okay. I love movies.
I don't watch any. What series are you watching?
No, I can't. I don't.
You got to watch Severance.
I don't have time for series.
No, man, you make time. Come on, Severance. You make the time.
I think I can do a bit of like reality now and then. I can do like Love Is Blind.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
It's my wife and I. We would do that. But
yeah, Yufti's always watch. Well, not always, but it will always be in the background.
Yeah.
And that other thing with the housewives in Durban or something like that.
Oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
No, man, that's one of the reasons I've never gone back to Durban.
Okay.
I can't.
Are your parents still in La Mercy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't deal with that. Housewives, anything. Housewives, cool. Dubai, Housewives, Durban, Housewives, wherever.
The North Coast is nice.
Yeah.
So you'll be in Pretoria. You think it's?
I love it here.
Yeah.
So my free time, anyone that knows me now will tell you that. That I love going to the Kruger Park. Okay. So that's my free time thing. So I'd say about a third of the year I'm at the Kruger Park.
Do you do photography and stuff?
Yeah. So that's my thing. So I do wildlife photography.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've got a massive rig. Yeah. My son even has his own DSLR with his telescope, his telephoto lens.
How old is he?
He's 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
starting young. Yeah.
But like with Shaylin Dulab, with Lala, we go to the Kruger.
Do you know Kabir Rajkumar by any chance?
Yes, very well.
Because he's also into wildlife photography.
I must
take so you must link up. Yeah,
I know him very well.
He loves it and he loves fishing. So
no,
maybe he'll teach you fishing.
He can maybe take me fishing.
A Perio and a Prosto.
Yeah.
Step into a pond.
So last year, we did this thing called the Specialist Wild Walk.
Okay.
So a whole lot of specialists got together and we took a walk through the Kruger Park. We spent 3 days walking through the Kruger.
All prosthodontists?
Ashen Singh.
Yeah, Prosto.
Raj Dulab, Prosto. Shan Naidu, Max Vack, and myself. So we spent 3 days walking through the Kruger. That was very cool. And we got some nice photography in and all of that. But we want to try to make it an annual thing now.
And so that's part of your, so like professional involvement is a big part of your life.
Upliftment of, so this is the thing.
Yeah.
So back to mentoring. I take it so seriously because I feel that was one part of my career that I regretted.
Okay.
Where I didn't have sufficient mentorship.
Okay.
And I don't mind taking time out of my day to help a dentist who messages me and say, hey, Avi, I need help. This is the case. What should I do?
Okay.
I have no problem doing that. And there are so many dentists who do that. And even more so, where there are dentists who tell me they want to specialize and they're not sure yet. At the moment, there are 3 registrars that I've helped get into Prosto.
Okay.
So to a degree, I've assisted them. Like Anay van Asvegen, I've mentored her to get her post.
Yeah.
George Bibliolakis, I gave him a bit of prep before his interviews. Herman van den Berg, when there was a post, I gave him the call. I was like, bro, there's a post, apply, let's go.
That's my old classmate. Yeah.
I know. So 3 currently that are in the program that I've had, maybe some of them a little more of a hand, some of them a little less of a hand.
Yeah.
But at this moment, there's about 3 other dentists that I'm trying to help get into the program. Because sometimes like any of the mentors who've helped me, you never know when someone's going to just nudge you in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's my thing. I want to be that catalyst for someone.
Mm-hmm.
And to come full circle, you know, you never know when you're going to plant that seed in someone else.
A little small gesture can go a huge way and change somebody's life. Eh?
Yeah.
And make them go from the small town to Switzerland.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's amazing, man. Thank you so much for joining me, dude.
Yeah. No,
we could go on for another couple of hours, I think.
I know we could.
We'll probably have another, like a part 2 somewhere in 5-6 years.
I suppose we could.
When you've started some foundation or something or the other.
That's in the process.
Is it happening?
So
okay.
because I do a bit of oncology.
You didn't tell me this, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I do a bit of oncology, a lot of oncology here. Actually, about every month we get about 2 or 3 big oncology cases.
Yeah.
Some of them, unfortunately, they struggle financially. So I want to start a foundation where we start treating these patients for free.
Okay.
So I want to start building up this kind of foundation where we help these patients who've suffered with some kind of cancer or some kind of trauma, and we want to be able to help them out.
Well, I have no doubt you're going to change many people's lives, not just patients, but future specialists, colleagues. I'm proud to say I know you, and I'm privileged to have been able to have you on the show. So thank you so much for coming, man. It was a really good talk.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure.
Thanks so much for sharing and being so open. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, man. Shot.